Okay, everybody, welcome to the February 14th regular council meeting. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, happy Valentine's Day to everybody, and thanks for coming. Probably other things we could all be doing, huh? We have to approve some additions to the agenda. There's some additional bills for approval. We got some quotes from the bank, but we're going to table that tonight because we haven't had a chance to review it, so let's just put that off, huh? Okay, so we got some quotes for the city checking account. First Western, Riverwood, First National, and Franzen Bank. So we'll talk about that. Discuss policy for use of interactive television at city council and commission meetings. Dated March 9th. I'm not sure what that is, but. And then we've got a resolution establishing procedure relating to compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. And we got a resolution ordering public bidding at the 2022 street improvements. So we need a motion to accept those?
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, motion and second. Go ahead, Char.
Siebert-Volz,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp is not on.
Yes, sorry.
Motion carries.
Okay, next, Mr. Schrupp is in Florida. Should I say his address? 752 Avenida Estancia, Unit J, Venice, Florida, which is open and accessible to the public because he is in Florida. So, and one other announcement I want to do is everybody, I'd like to introduce and greet our new planning and zoning administrator, Peter Ganzen. Peter, stand up and give a wave. At your leisure, if you want to stop and introduce yourself and give them a little encouragement, that'd be good. Next, we have public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issue will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name, address. Each speaker is given 3 minutes. Does anybody have anything? Nobody's coming up, so we'll close the public forum. Next, the consent calendar. All items here are listed to be considered routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so requests. Does anybody have anything on the consent calendar?
I need to pull item 7 from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Can you give me just a second? I didn't get through the one we just done.
Actually, I've got one quick question on bills for approval too that I'll ask.
I'm good on the bills.
Okay, 7 and a question on bills.
Did you want
Then you
to
have to
pull it?
No, I said I'm good on it.
He's not.
Which one?
I don't really want to pull it. Should I just ask the question?
Sure.
Mike, the question is, we got a bond payment of 107. What is that for? On page 3 of 107,077. And the reason I ask is I don't know when bonds are going to mature, how much more time is on them. Is that ambushing you? I don't mean to.
Well, it is a little bit, because you've been provided all the bond payments and the repayment schedule several times, but give me your question and I'll look it up and have an answer for you later in the meeting.
Okay.
It's the North American, is
Yeah.
that the North
Yeah.
American Baking? Which bond payment is that? Is that the equipment certificates?
Yes.
So that'd be the fire truck?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're going to pull number 7. Do we have a motion to approve the rest?
So moved.
I'll
I'll
second
second
it.
that.
Okay, we'll give Schrupp the second. Go ahead, Char.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Marcia, do you want to address number 7 right now?
Sure. I just have a question on the police administration, just because we're going to be discussing it later. We have capital outlay, the 500, at 66,214, and then we have capital outlay vehicles, 21,350. Is that correct, or should that be reversed, or?
No, that's for equipment, including some things that might go in existing vehicles. The one
So
above
we
it
don't
is-
have a vehicle in there?
Yes, we do.
So is that in capital outlay 500?
I believe so. I'd have to look to verify that.
Well, it must be because you won't get a car for 21,000, I don't think.
No, we won't.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that might be reversed. So if you could,
No, it's not reversed. There's equipment, including items purchased for existing vehicles, should we need them.
yeah,
The
but the,
capital outlay is, I can change the description if that would help you. This is consistent with the budget.
So the 21, may I? So the 21,000 is for like computers and other cages and whatnot,
For existing, no. Go ahead, Eric.
for new.
As I'm looking at it, I believe that's going to be for the cameras that we'll be discussing later on.
but we didn't have cameras in the budget.
Yeah, we did.
In 2022, you just,
We carried it over from 21. They were in the budget for 21, and the camera platform was not available yet for the new camera system. So we
oh,
didn't buy
I guess I misunderstood your memo, then you had said that you just purchased, or is that different cameras, body camera?
Those were body
Okay.
cameras last year.
Yeah, the vehicle thing throws us off with, or throws me off, I'm sorry. When you have capital outlay vehicles, I assume that that's where the vehicles are pulling from.
Okay, are we good?
Yep,
Then should we move to
Oh.
approve it?
yeah, I'll move to approve oh, wait, I do have one other question before we move on. I noticed that there's no expenditures in there for snow removal trail.
We'll be talking about that later under my report.
But I think we decided that we were going to put that in the financial statement.
Again, we'll be talking about that later under my report.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to accept the expenditure report.
Second.
Okay, motion a second. Go ahead, Char.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next, we're in the mayor and council members' report, and first up is Alden Hardwick with the playground equipment update, and I believe, TJ, you're gonna,
It's a special night for us tonight. We want to really celebrate that we've ordered all 5 phases of the playground equipment in January. The total paid was $187,000 from donations that the PAL received, plus an additional $50,000 from park dedication funds. The community has raised $237,000 for the project so far and paid for that much. It's really very special. When we started, I thought there was no way, and I'm an optimist, that we'd raise that much money, and we split it into phases. And so we've been able to do it all in one phase and hopefully put it in all this summer, depending how well the volunteers do. And we've had a lot of volunteers volunteer, so we think we should be okay. The community can really be proud of their response to this project. The money paid is not PAL's money. We're only a pass-through. We have no assets of our own. It's money that people donate to us that gets used for this project. And that's what they did do. They did donate. It's really been amazing. We have 110 gifts in the last 5 months. Not all for this project, but for PAL, which we can use for the community. PAL received support from many sources. Some were large gifts, like the Dietzes for their $80,000, and the Lions for their $40,000, and the Christmas for Kids with their $10,000. Others were small. We had one gift that's $10 a month, and it continues. But all gifts are important, and all make it possible for us to have this new facility. I want to especially thank the council. Every time we've come, TJ and I have come to the council, we've received a positive response. Not only just with questions, but with actual responses and smiles and encouragement. And even more important, every one of the council members and the mayor has talked to me privately and supported the project and urged me to continue. And that was really important, because sometimes raising this money seems just too much, too far, and yet we did it. So thank you, guys. Thanks to the community. We have something special coming, and you can see TJ's put the picture up. Hopefully this summer this happens, and our goal for the Dietz obstacle course, their memorial on the left side, is to have that done by June 12th. It's a big family reunion for the Dietzes. And they have even some friends coming from Poland. And so it'd be nice to get it. Now we're working, and this is TJ's responsibility to keep calling those guys every week. And it's funny how that worked. Before we ordered, there was no problem getting delivery. And now when you've ordered, it isn't as fast, but we'll see.
So what should we expect in the future now, Alden, with this going so fast?
Well, it's just amazing that the community has this much feeling for what they want to do. And we see it all the way through the community. And so we're having projects, and TJ is going to talk about a survey that's going out to see what other interests are. And we'll continue this enthusiasm, assuming we get this installed, right? TJ has a list of projects for this summer, and there is really an enormous number of projects. Small things, big things, benches, things like this to put in.
Yep.
And so it'll be a busy summer. I'd like next to recognize the Lions for their gift of $40,000. And I'll give you a little background. When PAL was founded in 2008, we went to the Lions for seed money. We asked for $2,000, and they came through. And that $2,000 has grown. We figure we've given nearly $1 million over those years to the community. Not from PAL, but that $2,000 of seed money really produced some big trees. And the people have given for projects, and so we thank them. I remember them being long-term supporters. When I first came, they had built this picnic shelter, donated the money, and actually did the build. They helped with the library. They helped with the playground equipment, the tennis courts, the pickleball facilities, each year's Halloween parties, many things. We've looked for them many times, and they've responded many times. We really are grateful. So the community thanks the Lions for the past support, and then we'd like the Lions to come up now, and so we can take a picture. And,
Yeah, let's do that. Come on up, Jeremy. Do your
I got a few of the
presentation.
Lions members here, so I'd like them to come up. Why don't you go up in front there?
Unless you have Jake do it.
This is
Really
good.
are grateful.
Council would probably stand up.
Yeah. We could get in there.
Stand up. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Stand up much.
Yeah, we still can't see it.
All right.
If I could just say a couple of words on behalf of the Lions Club, as being president, I'm happy to actually be a part of this in my term, to be able to donate that amount of money to help with this project. I think it's a great project. Some of the naysayers say, oh, I never see anybody at the park. There's always people at the park. Might not be 100 people at the park all at once, but there's somebody there all the time throughout the day, and people utilize that park and the whole facility more than what the general people actually think. So I'm happy to be a part of this, and it's going to be a great project.
Thank you,
So,
Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to adjust our schedule just a little bit here. I'm going to move number 3 up, a resolution accepting donations, as long as it's fitting here. So I'm going to read this. The City of Cross Lake encourages public donation to help defray costs to the general public by providing services and improving the quality of life in Cross Lake. The City of Cross Lake is generally authorized to accept donations of real personal property pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 465.03 for the benefit of the citizens. Whereas as said statute 46503 requires that all gifts and donations of real personal property be accepted only with the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of the members of the City Council. Whereas the following persons, or entities have donated real and personal property as follows. So from the PAL Foundation, is that what it is here? The donation is $153,170.15. And I just want to list through the people that have donated the money. The Dietz family donated $80,000. We accepted that last month, I believe. Cross Lake Ideal, $40,000. At the last meeting, they approved that, and you just accepted that. Christmas for Kids donated $10,000. There was $5,000 from an anonymous gift. $1,000 from the American Legion Post, $600 from the Cedar Chest, and $16,570.15 from individual donations. So good for the community. So let's approve that resolution accepting that.
I'll make a motion to accept the donations and approve resolution accepting donations.
We have a second?
Second.
Aaron seconds. Go ahead, Shar.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Zebra Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yeah. Let's give it to us. Okay, now we're going to back up, and Pastor Mark has got a sewer assessment that he would like to discuss.
Appreciate your time, everyone, and yeah, we've tried to avoid coming here to the council and work this out, but it's gotten to this point. First of all, just so you know, the people of the Log Church, we got a little over 500 of us now that are worshiping every week, and from 17 different states and 4 different countries that are now joining us because we started live streaming. The pandemic has actually helped us grow as a church, which is kind of weird. We thought when we weren't meeting in the building that would cause issues. And we've actually seen some unprecedented growth over the last 18 months. And so we're a church that's just growing and having a lot of fun and trying to figure out what more we can do to help this city. And we've always been involved with this city. And soon you're going to be hearing we're going to be opening up Cross Lake Area Counseling Center. We're going to be doing that for the city. It's going to be downtown. It's going to open in mid-May. It's going to provide counselors, professional counselors, It's going to provide biblical counselors, equine therapy. It's going to provide support groups for people that struggle with mental health, as well as awareness forums. And we just hired our first full-time director of mental health services, and she starts on March 1st. And that is all going to be services that we're providing for this. As you know, over 30% of the people in Cross Lake struggle with depression, anxiety, or bipolar, or some sort of mental health condition. Yet we don't have hardly any services for that in this town, and so we're expanding that work. So I hope you know that we care deeply about this town, and we're here to make a difference. One of the things that has concern 2 years ago, and my dates may not be exactly right. I can't remember yesterday, much less 2 years ago, but I remember when the first thing came out and we got a letter about an assessment of what we were going to be, and it was a crazy high amount that the Log Church was going to be asked to pay. We were going to be the highest, by far, assessment of any. So we showed up at a meeting that was happening in this building, along with a bunch of other people that were struggling with the assessments. First time assessments were being raised in our town. There were a lot of people there at that meeting. And I remember a lot of people were upset, and we raised our concern at that time too, saying we don't understand why we're being assessed. When this project was done on the other side of town, there were no assessments. On this side of town, there was. And it was explained to us very clearly, that's because back then they had the money, now we don't have the money, so there will be assessments now. Well, we struggle with that, still do, because I do know the city. I know how much money the city has sitting there. Assessments will bring in about $588,000, and I know the city has that money. But we're being charged assessments. Churches weren't charged assessments on the other side of town, they are. Restaurants on the other side of town weren't, now Moonlight will be. You sit there and go, okay. But now assessments are coming, so we raised our concern then, that we didn't like this assessment policy, and we didn't think it was fair that the church be the largest charged assessment. We waited. It got tabled. Pandemic hit. We all know that whole process. We waited, didn't hear anything. All of a sudden, we got a letter in August. First time we heard anything. No one came and met with us. No one came and talked to us. After we raised our concern about assessments, no one approached us and said, here's what we're thinking for your assessment. All of a sudden, we get another letter in the mail, and this time it says we're going to be charged a little over $83,000, which is going to be 14%. We are the largest assessment of any of your assessments, is the Log Church, being charged more than anywhere else, and 14% of the total assessments is we're expected to pay. We're being charged commercial on our parking lot. We're not a commercial business. We're being charged commercial on our facilities. We're not commercial. And so we know there's only two designations, residential and commercial, but we are being stuck with this commercial rate. We met with Phil. We asked for meetings, where we asked for meetings with Phil and Mike and tried to say, okay, we need to work this out. We don't want to raise a stink. We don't want to show up here. As you notice, I'm here by myself. I didn't come here with 150 people, 200 people from the Log Church. We haven't brought this up at the Log Church. We're trying to work this out with you. And so my elders are releasing me to be here to share this with you guys and say, so we met with Phil and Mike, nothing. We were told to send a letter to Public Works. So we sent a letter to Public Works explaining, even offering solutions as to what we thought was more fair based on what other towns do. Other cities recognize churches and schools as something different. And so we put in proposals, asked for considerations, heard nothing. Then the first time we hear something, we hear that Phil and Mike want to meet with us. Great. Only to find out that that meeting was not about our assessment. They wanted to talk to us about our land. Because you need a portion of our land in front of our parking lot in order to put in a drainage pond for this project, which we are more than willing to let you guys have. To say, sure, you need to have that land. But we were clear, wait, we have a problem with this assessment that dates back, and we've been telling you we have a problem with this assessment. We need to talk about the assessment first. The meeting got silent. There was no more discussion. We're not going to. And so then it was, if you have an issue with the assessment, you need to bring it to Public Works. Okay, we'll show up at Public Works. What do we have to do? We go to Public Works. We get on the agenda. We show up at Public Works. Probably the most disappointing meeting I've had, where 3 of us showed up at Public Works, and really all we got was run around and support for the current policy. And when we were bringing up, it seemed like we were just a problem, because now we were bringing up the fact that we didn't like this, and they said to us, essentially, you needed to bring this to us sooner. We can't do it now because we're under the gun. We got a timeline now, and in order, if we make a policy change now, that would take months and that would slow down this project. I want to be clear. Our job here, the Log Church doesn't want to stop this project from happening. It needs to happen. It's a great thing for our town to have it extended. We want to see that happen. But to tell us at that time that we needed to come sooner, we've been coming to you for 2 years. And so we're disappointed in that. Then, after that, there were no resolutions. It was then that we need to come to you guys. And then they offered a couple of suggestions. Maybe you could negotiate a rate. This was literally suggested to us, to come to you and say, well, maybe you guys should, for that land, pay us $40,000 for that land. You're paying Simonson you're paying them $6,500, but you could pay us $4,000. Do you know how ridiculous that request was? There's no way I was going to bring that to you guys. That's not what we're going to do. That's not fair. Imagine what Simonson would say. Wow, we're getting $6,500 and the Log Church got $40,000. How does that work? So we said no to that. We said, well, let's try to figure out a policy that would make sense to bring to you guys as a council. And you guys all know, I reached out to every one of you to personally say I'd like to meet with you because I believe it's in the Bible, it's called the wisdom of elders. You're this city's elders. You're who I turn to. I don't know how to bring you a policy that's better, but I wanted your wisdom. I got it from 2 of you. 2 of you were willing to meet with me. 2 of you gave me your thoughts. So I'm going to bring you what I think is a fair proposal or something I'm going to ask the city to consider, which is simply this. I think, and here's what was interesting. Public Works, literally they said, well, this is a new assessment policy, and every new policy always has problems. Nothing's perfect in a first-time policy. I think that's the one thing I agreed with. True. That policy isn't perfect. One of the things that should have been considered was right now there's only 2 zones, commercial and residential. I have 3 friends of mine that are pastors in other churches in Minnesota, and there's a 3rd zone, which is for schools and churches. So there's residential, there's commercial, and there is schools and churches. They're given a different, and so then that's a zone, only for churches, only for schools. It was one of the things that one of your council members brought up as a suggestion, that we should have that. Then, the assessment policy would be for residential, you charge $7,000 for residential, that's what your policy says. For commercial, you charge 30 to 50 cents based on usage. But for churches and schools, you would have a policy for that, which our recommendation is, based on the research that we've done, is that churches and schools should not be charged for parking lots. Because churches and schools have to have parking lots. In order, based on our sanctuary size, it seats 400, we have to have so many parking spots out there. So essentially, we have to have a whole second lot just for parking. If you look at the school has to have a lot of parking. It's always going to be parking. It's never going to be anything but parking. That's what we have to do. So why should we be charged on a parking lot? So we're asking you to make a decision on that to say, okay, now that makes sense. And then we're asking that the rate, we shouldn't be charged residential. You can't just charge a flat rate because churches and schools are all different sizes. But what if instead of, so then go to, but 30 to 50 cents, we're not commercial. We're non-for-profit. And so this is coming on the backs of nonprofit people that are giving. So we're asking you to consider a rate of 20 cents for churches and schools. We still want to pay an assessment. We still believe we should pay an assessment. We're willing to pay an assessment. But we think this policy was missing something for churches and schools. And we think that would be fair. 20 cents on our facility, which means we'd be paying somewhere around $28,000 for our assessment. And then we would then on the land that you want in front, we'd probably just say, whatever you're doing for Simonson's, we'll do the same thing. Because we think it needs to be fair. So that's our proposal. Be glad to answer any questions that you have, and just want you to know we tried to work this out so that a proposal could come through Public Works to you rather than us having to show up. We really, really wanted them to bring it to you rather than us having to be here today.
So Mark, I'm going to jump on your back a little bit, on the good side of your back, in support of what you're saying. It was about 2 years ago that this assessment policy came up, and I was on the council, and we agreed that there should be an assessment policy. So we enacted it. We didn't know what that policy was going to be at the time, And ever since that day, that policy has dug in, and that's what the policy is. And the biggest part of it that I have a hard time with is its best case use of property. So I'm going to jump on your side here and tell a little story about Dodo Fraser, who I've talked about many times. Dodo's in a little 800 square foot house on 4 acres up north of Simonson Lumber and has lived there for 60 years. Her assessment started out to be, I think, in the $80,000 range, because the best case use of her property was possibly to build a 14-story hotel there, and that's what the assessment would be. So I would like the council and our engineer and Public Works to reevaluate our assessment policy. Do we want to assess on the best case use in the future, or do we want to assess at the current use? I think the current use would be a fair way to assess it.
To me, that's a whole nother issue you guys have to figure out.
Yeah, right, but I mean, it's just, you open a door for me to say that, because we would like to, I think we would like to move the sewer project forward. But there's a lot of people with a lot of heartburn about the assessments, so.
And we're trying not to stand in the way, but we don't think it's currently fair for us to be the largest, a nonprofit, a church to be charged more than anyone else. And I think we're making our case for that.
So we don't want to take up an hour on this topic, but I would like to hear from some of the other council here what their thoughts are about this.
I guess I'll say, I agree that the church shouldn't be assessed commercially. And I don't know why the city couldn't establish a school church assessment zone, whatever you want to call it. If you want to go back and you want to zone the churches and the schools, so be it. But if you want to address it, I don't know if you can just address it in the special assessment policy, but clearly, I don't think the churches and the schools should be paying a commercial rate. And I think it should be a reduced rate for churches and schools.
So I'm going to jump in there and just say that this is going to be probably the toughest project that the city is going to do. It's a one-time sewer extension. Not that we're going to not do other ones, but this has got the most impact to the fewest people going up there as far as commercial and residential. So we've been battling over this, and it's a one-time deal. The cost to the city on this project is about $1.6 million. The assessment is $600,000. So the city is supposedly taking $1 million of it on. But then they have a SAC charge on there that is about $1 million. So essentially, the people on the road are paying for it without paying anything for the plant. And I know that that is not said correctly. But at the end of the day, those are collected funds for the project. So, and I've always said that it should be 50% contribution. I think, this community lives on the Whitefish chain, the headwaters of the Mississippi, all this stuff. We're all stewards of the water. We're all got a stake in this thing. And to put it on the backs of a few people on this run for this really one-time event of this caliber, I can't imagine where it's going to go and have that big an impact on another one, is a bit much to me. Who's next?
Can I just ask, is the bond issue going to be over 15 years? Is that what it's going to be, or is it 20?
That's to be determined on what we can get for rates.
Okay, because that makes a difference too in the assessment payments, if you're going to spread it over 15 or 20 years. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. One of my concerns is from July of '21 to February of '22, the costs have already gone up close to 100 and how much? 120 or $30,000 in that 67-month period. If we continue to fool around with this project is going to get to a point, how are we going to pay for it? We have to get something settled and get it moving and get this done. We don't have time to wait.
Aaron, you're absolutely right, but how many times have you heard me sing this song? Countless. and it hasn't changed. So we haven't addressed it. We just close the meeting, move on to the next meeting, bring it up, listen, everybody's got wide-eyed looks, we get through the meeting, we close it up, we move on again. We've got to do what is fair here, and I'm stubborn because I don't think what we're doing is fair. I think, you know, there's an old saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think if any one of us had this assessment policy going in front of our house, we'd be screaming about it. I think we'd be complaining about it. But because it doesn't affect the most of us, nobody says anything. I know that if I was a resident and I had to pay $18,000 to hook up to a sewer line that I had no choice in coming in front of my house, and I had a 3-year-old system out in front of my house that I just put in, I'd be going a little wild, you know? And the other part of that is that this city should kick together. You know, a year ago, we spent $1 million on a fire machine. Public Works today wants to spend $250,000 on equipment that's replacing equipment that's working fine right now. You know, where are our priorities? What do we want to do with the money? Where do we want to put the burden? And I really feel like we're putting a heavy burden on this run of people going up here. John, what do you think?
I'd like to hear from our attorney and from Mike Linus. What are the legal issues if we tried to come up with a new category? And Mike Linus, what are your suggestions?
Well, just a couple things. One is, you know, and Phil will be concerned about this too, is, you know, if this is a 429 project, which means we're assessing it, you have to have a certain level assessments in order to have an assessment bond. And that's 20%. And we're flirting really close with that number right now. Is that correct, Phil? The other thing we need to look at too is, now let's remember, we've spent just over $200,000 on this project to get to where we are today. Okay? We've got about $260,000 in round numbers of ARPA funding from the COVID money that we're planning to put towards this project. There's another $315,000 of storm sewer money that we're working with through the county to put the storm sewer portion in it. Now, just be advised that in 2024, I believe, Phil, the county's looking at, that's when their scheduled resurfacing is. If we don't do this project now, and then in 2025, we say, well, we want to put the sewer in, guess who gets to pay for the road?
We do.
And there is no grant money, and we will have used the COVID money probably for something else. So we'll have to come up with close to in excess of an additional $500,000. Now, from a staff perspective, we have an assessment policy that was consistently applied in accordance with what the council directed. Now, that's not real popular, as you've heard tonight, but that's what we've done. Staff doesn't magically have the authority to say, well, we understand the taxpayer's concern and we can change that for you. The council makes that decision, not staff, and we've been extremely clear about that. So as far as bonding, you know, the question came up, is it 15 or 20 years? 20 years is a long time for bonding in today's market. 15 would be better. What we're trying to do, and you'll see this later tonight, is we've already approved a resolution back last November to pay for improvements in the sewer treatment plant itself, $556,000 to reimburse ourselves with bonds. The reason we did that is because we were anticipating we'd be issuing debt to get us through this project we're talking about right now. What we'd like to do is issue a combined bond issue and then bifurcate the proceeds to each project. That'll get you the best rate, and that'll get you the best terms for that bond. You'll have one bond issue instead of two, potentially three, for the projects we're considering. So as far as the assessments, I think you're flirting with what would be considered spot zoning under your current policy. If you're going to say, well, we're just going to carve out this spot right here and call it something else because it doesn't work for us, you know, there's a danger in doing that. Brad can talk to the legality of that and too, so.
Not too much new, I don't think. As to the Frasers, I did mention 2 or 3 years ago, they could rezone their property, but the same logic would apply to the church. It can't be like part of your assessment policy. It has to be real. So if we do create a new category, you'd have to consider what nonprofits would qualify to or not, but they can't, you can't just have it in the assessment policy, it has to be legitimate on the ground, meaning you couldn't turn that into some other commercial venture, but most cities in Minnesota, and I've worked with many of them, treat churches as commercial. It's more so in the metro, but many of them have daycare, they have schools, they have coffee shops, they are commercial enterprises, and the state sees it as such. We're not doing something unique here. So that by far the great majority of cities in Minnesota treat churches as commercial. I get they're different, but to think of it in a little bit more, a different example, the statute says you're not supposed to put your human feelings into this. So in a residential setting, if you know it's a small town, someone just lost their job and there's 2 deaths in the family, your heart would want to give them some kind of break, but the law says you cannot do that. You got to treat everybody the same and not think about the human factor. So whether they're a great nonprofit or church, I think everyone thinks they are. I don't think that's not really on the table here. They're zoned commercial. So you have to create a new zoning district, which is not easy, and that'd be his job with the help of planning and zoning, but you can't make it just an assessment policy. It has to be you got to change the whole zoning code. And to the harder point, then that's hard enough, but you need to assess enough money to make it an assessable project, and if you lower somebody's assessment, you need to raise others, or you're not going to have enough assessed, and you cannot do this project. So it's got to come out of somebody's pocket. Nobody wants to pay it, I understand that. But it's not like there's free money here that we can somehow reduce somebody's and still do it doesn't work. You have to assess enough or it's not bondable.
So were the grants taken off of the project amount for bonding so that, they're not included in that total project cost to get to that 20%?
My understanding of the law is it's the project cost is the project cost. You might have 25 funding sources and some might not come out of our bucket, but the part you assess has to be a certain percentage of the overall project
Yeah,
cost.
but we're not going to bond, we're not going to bond for the part that we have.
That's not how the law reads. It's what's the cost of the project.
I know, but you don't have to bond for the total project.
For sure. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, is that we could get to that 20% and bond that amount. If we're over by 21% or whatever, 19%, it would be 19, right, the other way. We could just reduce the bond amount, couldn't we?
I don't think so.
Well, if we pay cash sometimes on a project and we bond for the
The whole nature of the law
balance.
is if you want to make it an accessible project, you need to raise so much by assessments, a certain percentage of the project. We can't just say we got some money from the phone company or whatever, let's throw some money into this job. I think that's also just bad policy. You need to have a uniform city assessment policy and apply it in any neighborhood you go to, not like this year we got extra money, let's throw some in, not this year. It just creates winners and losers. It's hard to create an assessment policy, but once you do, you should apply it to every neighborhood, not randomly based on what you got in the checkbook that year.
Well, I don't think I'm talking about changing the assessment policy. I'm just saying that if you're trying to get to, if you're going to assess 20% and you can't get there.
Then you don't assess anybody and you pay for the whole 600,000 out of the city budget, is what we're trying to say.
That's the law?
Yes.
But if it's 20%, if it's a $2.5 million project, 20% of $2.5 million is 500,000? Yeah. And right now, the assessment is at 6-something? 600. So we've got room. Okay, but
So you got a little bit of window. I didn't do the math, but I'm saying, point is you got to get to that percentage or you got to just stop, the city pays all. Well, some combination of county and city grants, just no assessments. You can't assess for 12% of the project. You got to get to that 20 or it's not an assessable project.
okay, I'm going to make a motion because we don't want to do this all night. I'm going to make a, well, go ahead. You had something?
We're coming down to where we get to that part for motions. This is discussion. It's not a motion end, okay.
Can I talk a little?
Sure.
We struggled with the assessment policy We created the policy. No one likes to get assessed. And we have to, as city representatives, we have to treat every commercial entity and every resident that's impacted by the assessment policy in the same calculation method. If we don't, as council members, if we alter those numbers now, we will be in trouble. So unfortunately, we will have to apply the same method to everybody there. And the way it was determined was the value received, and that value was determined by our appraiser. This is one way of doing it. You know, I too would like to give somebody a break, but we cannot do that, or we're going to put the city of Cross Lake in trouble on this project.
What's another way to
Time
do
is
it? Dave, what's another
There
way
is
to
no-
do it, though, the assessment? Is
I
there?
don't know. We have been screwing around with this thing for 2 to 3 years. There's no way we're going to make changes in time to get it done this year. The window has to be closed here, and we need to move ahead. It's a hard decision to make,
Tom, come
but
on
it
up.
has to be done, or we're not going to, you know, you're going to lose the rest of the people that some of them want it.
Well, I think we all want it. It's just how to pay for it.
Of course.
Tom Swenson, Public Works Commission member. After the Public Works meeting, I took the time to try to figure out, you know, how could we work with the church? I sent everyone on the council and the city staff a proposal that it would reduce take the area of the drainage basin out of the assessment. That saved, I think it was like $1,200 and some dollars. And then the parking lot, the south parcel is 1,000 feet deep, 200 feet wide. Arbitrarily, for the assessment, they chose 500 feet for the assessment. I looked at an overhead or an aerial off the county map, and at approximately 350 feet goes just a little bit beyond the parking lot. The 500 feet was an arbitrary figure. I did the calculations where take the square footage out of the detention basin and only go back 350 feet instead of 500 feet. And that came to $12,000 some dollars in a reduction to their assessment. And then if you paid them the $6,500 that you're paying Simonson Lumber, you know, that would bring, you know, whether you subtract that off or add it to, that's a benefit to the log church. It was right around $19,000. I know you're struggling. You know, what Brad is saying is, I believe, correct. You know, it's 20% of the total project cost, and I think Phil came up with the reduction that I proposed would bring it from 23 point something down to 22.9%. I know it's not perfect. I know that's not, you know, what the log church wants to hear. If you want to try to work with the log church and give them a break, that would be one way that you could do it. You're not changing the assessment policy. What you're doing is deducting the area out of the drainage pond, and you're reducing that arbitrary figure that we said will go back 500 feet. I'm saying just go back 350 feet just beyond the parking lot. And the total benefit of that would be a reduction in the assessment, and the payment for the drainage basement is $19,000. So take that for what it's worth, and good luck.
I have a question for
Just
Brad.
to say, just before we leave that, I mean,
Yeah.
assuming Phil blesses that math, those kind of analyses don't give me angst. That's not trying to treat a church different than, that's where the legal analysis gives me heartburn. That's logical analysis based on the site, and if it's subjective and we could do that on any site in town, not just because it's a church, no problem with those kind of details. No, the assessment still might be too high for the church's liking, but that was palatable to me. But that's not today's, I know you first have to decide whether you're doing a project before we get to those kind of details, but some of that stuff can be done.
That number would still be a lot more than the $28,000 the church would like to pay. So it seems to me we're down to, we could do what Tom Swenson suggested, which sounds fine to me, or we can decide to not assess and just have the city pay for the whole thing and be done with the assessments.
That sounds right.
I want everybody to know that this assessment policy has not been here. This is the first substantial job that we're going to apply this policy to. The next one is the road improvement project. Now, we did do it a little bit. We assessed one person on this road out here in front of City Hall. But this policy came up, and I certainly, I don't know if you guys knew, but I didn't know all the ins and outs of what an assessment policy was at the time. I'm in full belief that we should contribute toward the project. It's just this is getting a little excessive. I'm going to go back to Dodo again. Had I known that Dodo was going to be assessed $70,000 north or south of, I would have never agreed to any assessment policy. So that's what I would like to see worked out. I'm kind of getting the looks here like there's no way to work it out, and I just don't believe that. You know, I just don't believe that. So I think everybody wants this project to go through, but I think we need to have some real hard meetings about other options for an assessment policy and take a look at it. I can be the black sheep up here and we can prove this thing through and go through, but there's a lot of people in town that are not happy with this, what's going on. I mean, that's just the end of the story, and that's not good for our town.
I make a motion that we get rid of the assessments for the sewer projects and that the city pay for it. End of story. It's about $600,000 we'd have to pay.
Well, it's more than that, but I'll second that.
Are we gonna get rid of the road assessments too?
I'm doing sewer right now. Sewer.
I disagree with that. I think that's taking advantage of 2,500 other home property owners in this city.
Okay.
And I think that's wrong.
Okay,
Well,
so you
I'm
don't
gonna
second
vote
it,
no.
but I seconded it.
Well, no, I realize that. That's why I was discussing it again.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true. There's probably, I would say 60% of the residents in town that will never, ever get the chance to hook up the city sewer.
Well,
And you're right. However, many of us like to go to the institutions that are in the city, whether it's stores, restaurants, or whatever. And so I figure that I don't mind that I'll never see the sewer. I like to have the sewer, including the extension we're getting ready to work on. And we've already gone up 100 and plus, maybe 200,000 more than we would have if we had built it in 2020 or 2021. I think we need to stop and make a decision. And if we can't come up to agreement with the assessment policy, get it above 20%, that everybody be relatively okay with, for $600,000 more, the city could just eat this for now and work on a sewer assessment later.
John, I disagree with that, because if you eat it here, if you think we're catching grief here today, the next time we try to apply any kind of policy, assessment policy to anything, they are going to come and rain on whoever's sitting here's parade big time. Be a lot worse than it's been now. So I disagree. We either assess the 20% or we just dump the project. Let a future council take care of it.
I don't think we
I'm
can
in
dump the
agreement.
project.
Well, we've
I
had,
disagree with dumping the assessment policy. We haven't planned in the budget for paying for the total project. I don't know, we haven't planned for the road project. We're counting on those assessments. I mean, we can't dump the assessment policy at this point of the game unless we dump the project. I'd like to go back to, I don't understand why we couldn't, since we have room to get to that 20%, why we couldn't rezone the churches and the schools. I mean, that's pretty specific. It's not nonprofits, it's schools and churches, and why we couldn't just do that and get it to move.
Such a long-term process, and
Well, but-
we have a couple of planning people sitting out here, commissioners, and they know, they understand that. It's a long process to get through, to get that in.
But if we build the assessment or establish that assessment based on, the process,
I agree.
then we wouldn't be dumping the project. We would be moving forward with zoning for churches and schools. We get that assessment, and I believe it'll probably be, at 20 cents, it'd be 30,000 or so for the assessment. I think we still can make that 20%. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just throwing that out there, that's something that we should look at versus paying for the whole thing, because we haven't planned for that. And if we're going to dump that project, fine, but if we're going to pay for it, there's going to have to be some concessions on capital outlay for the city, and some constraints made in the budget.
Just so
One of the
everybody
things-
knows, there is an appeals process that any of us can go through once this assessment is done. So in other words, for the Lug Church or anyone else, there are still steps to go through. Their judge or someone else can help decide what the right number is. My concern is that the prices have gone up, 100,000, 200,000, while we've been sitting talking over the last 2-3 years. I think we should make a decision. We'd plan to go through it. Got a lot of things riding on making this happen on time. The numbers that Thomas come up with, Thomas Swinson, doesn't look like we'll get down to 28,000 to the Log Church. So the question is, whatever number it comes down to, is that acceptable or legal, et cetera? Or do we go ahead and just scrap the assessment and approve it with the city paying?
Phil, how did we end up at 23% assessment? I thought we were looking at 20. I mean, is there something unique that got us up that 3%, I guess is what I'm asking.
So, TJ, I'm not sure I know how to do this. I'm going to put this up here. So, just as a recap, what the city's assessment policy is based on, and this particular improvement is a fixed assessment rate method. So the city hired an appraiser to do an opinion of market benefit on the project corridor, and they came up with those categories, and then we applied those after some evolution and discussions amongst council, property owners, public works, and we applied that market benefit based on whether it was residential or non-residential, and that came up with a number, okay? And that number that we came up with then is $594,023.15. So that's doing 35 cents a square foot for commercially zoned property and 7,000 for residential zoned property. If you add that up, that assessment's that number.
Yeah.
So that number divided by the total project cost, $2,537,000 and some odd dollars, it gives you 23.1%, 23.4%. So that's how we got there. The minimum number that Brad is talking about, that the statutes, it's that 20%, assessed 20%.
Yeah,
of the
but
bond
could we go, and I'm talking about across the board now, I'm not going to only one
You
property.
can as long as it's uniform, you can definitely
Right.
lower it as long as you
Well,
stay
that's
above
what I'm
20.
saying. So
Yeah.
we could take that 3.4% across the board.
Yes.
Okay, that answered my question. Okay.
Can we take the resurfacing of the road off of the project because that's the county's deal? To lesser that 20%? They got 400 grand, right, for resurfacing?
Nobody pays the county road assessment, because it's a county road. The
No,
church
but
is
we're
getting a free
putting it
road
in
assessment.
as part of the project. So it increases the project from being 2.1 to 2.5. So I'm saying, can we take it off of the paperwork so it looks like it's a 2.1 project? And then you take 20% of that. We're getting closer.
I don't, back to,
We need to think
That's- I'm
outside
getting
the
heartburn
box a
again.
little bit. I like John's idea.
Let me ask this question then, Brett. If we said the 400, look at it, can we legally take the 400,000 off of it? And then if we can, go across the board 20%, I'm comfortable with that.
without research, I'd be surprised if we can take the 400,000 off. Staff will definitely look into it. I just want the council to know that we can't pick and choose. There's a statute to follow.
Tonight, we can decide whether the project goes forward or not.
You definitely can make a contingent motion saying, we're gonna award the bid, we'll figure out the assessments later, tonight's not the assessment hearing. Your motivation would be to get staff to find a way to lower that project cost so we can lower the assessments, I hear you.
Yes.
But if we can't, you all are, I'm not sure yet, I'm hearing different answers.
Then
You get it to
we-
20% and it is what it is, we gotta do it. Or what John said, just take away, I don't know the right answer. I mean, that's a political decision.
I thought the motions were coming later. I apologize, John.
Yeah,
but,
no, they are coming later, but.
I have a
you-
motion
you
on the
can do
table.
that, Yeah.
But, okay, that
He's
answers
got a
my
motion
question.
and a second. Let's
Yeah.
vote on that.
Well, can I just, are we going to be assured that there will be assessments? Or that,
He's saying no assessment. Didn't I understand that?
oh, he wants to pay for
I think
the
we have a
whole
motion on the
Okay.
floor. I don't believe you can. Can you? There's a motion?
What's the question?
Mark's got a question. Can he say something?
It seems to me it's up to the council whether you want to have public input. I don't think you can, it's up to you. I don't,
Could-
nothing
Make it
wrong with
quick, but
Could
yeah.
John restate his motion so that we know exactly what we're voting on?
Okay, I'm in planning and zoning, Mark Lindner, I live in Cross Lake on Pine Lore Drive. What I look at in this, if I'm a public person and I go out and they're gonna put in a septic, they gotta pay $500 to get a permit to do it, that's a resident. They spend $15,000 putting in septic. If you're gonna take $600,000 and throw it on the taxpayers for all this that's being done for this, I don't understand how you can throw that on the taxpayers now. They're already paying for their own stuff. How can you take it off and give the church a free septic system or sewer system? I don't get it. I just don't understand.
Okay, John, please restate your motion so we can vote.
I say that we get rid of the assessment policy for the sewer and the city pick up the 594,000, whatever, 15 cents, so that we can get this project going.
And I will second that, and the only discussion I'm gonna say is that the SAC charge is still gonna apply, so there's still gonna be around $1 million recovered. So, enough of that, but, so that's a second, so go ahead, do your roll call.
Schrupp,
No.
Zebra Bowles,
No.
Herzog,
No.
Nevin,
Yes?
Andrews.
Yes.
Okay, motion fails.
So my concern is that we had somebody do some appraisal, and now we're futzing with all of the numbers and trying to do things that are outside of the deal. Is it okay for us on commercial properties where they gave us a value per square foot? Can we go lower than the low that they gave us?
I can try to answer that. We got a couple of rules we have to follow. You've heard it already, but we got to get 20% assessed somehow.
Right.
And you have to be uniform within the district. So, I think if you had a methodology where you reduced it the same for all commercial properties, I think you could do that, as long as you still have at least 20%. That might impact and raise the residential rates, because you still got to we got a couple percent to play with, but not very much. But yes, as long as you applied the same discount to the whole, everything's zoned that way on the project, I think you have latitude.
Thank you. And I do agree with resident Lindner that, there's many people that are never going to get the sewer. And let's just say there's 10 of them in the row that their systems are going to fail in the next 2 years. They're going to get a new septic hookup system and not have to pay for a new septic system. And that's all going to be paid for by everybody else that pays taxes in Cross Lake. And I don't see that as fair. There's a benefit that a lot of these places are getting. It's a value. You heard it from Simonson's Lumber. A year ago or so, he said, I'll write you a check out tonight because I know the value that I'm getting.
I'm just going to leave you guys with this, because this is the question the log, your 500 constituents are asking of each one of you. Do you feel it's fair for a church to be charged a commercial rate on a parking lot that's always going to be a parking lot, that will never be, because it has to be a parking lot in order for us to have what we need? And if you say, realize, we pay attention to how you vote on these things. We're coming to you saying, would you consider, we are different, we are a church. I absolutely disagree with Brad on this one, and I would like his facts on this one. Did you hear what he quoted as far as why churches should be commercial? Where were those churches from that he was talking about? Big city. Brad, I used to be the pastor of a very large church in Southern California that had a school, that had a nursery, that had many businesses running out, a coffee shop and all that. Absolutely, we should have been charged commercial. I now pastor the log church. We don't have a coffee shop, we don't have a school, we don't have any, it's totally different up here. Pastoring a church in this size town, and what we are bringing to this community, no, this is my time to talk. We are bringing a counseling center to this town for free. We're putting in a physical fitness center in our church with a gym that is going to have, because the community center is too busy right now, offering free classes for this community. We host a seniors expo for this community for free. When the fire department needed somewhere to land their life flight because they were under construction, where did they do it? Our parking lot. When you guys get ready to put in that road, you're going to need, those guys are going to need places to park their equipment. Guess what you're going to come ask? Can we park it on your guys' parking? Sure. It's different in this size town. You guys need to understand it's different in this size town.
You're becoming very emotional, so I'm going to ask you.
I will take it, but what I'm saying is we're coming to you saying, please don't put us in the category. So we're asking you a question. If you see us as commercial and feel it's right that we be charged commercial when we are one of 3 or 5 churches, 7 churches in this town, and I'd say this for all 7, if this was reversed and the log church hadn't been charged any assessments 12 years ago, and now the Lutheran Church and Catholic Church were being charged $83,000, I would be here speaking up on behalf of the churches in this town saying, Council, do you really think this is right? Look at what the Lutherans, the Catholic churches do for this community. Do you really believe that we should be charged commercial? We're nonprofit. We don't charge anything for what we offer. We don't have coffee shops in town and businesses. We don't do that. So we're asking you to consider that, and we're asking you to consider a lower assessment than commercial rate. That's what we're asking. Those two things.
So what are we gonna do with this?
Pastor Holman, can I talk to you a minute? Pastor Holman?
Yes, sir.
This is Dave Schrupp. See, we're not, I don't care if you're commercial or residential. And I think we talked about U zoning in the residential mode. That's up to you. And I think I heard the number, and some of the people there, the equivalent would be $7,000 times 7 equivalent residential units, or $49,000. But I understand there might be something that has to be done with a parking lot, or you get an exception, a variance approved for it. Can we talk about that as a council? I mean, that cuts this almost in half, but you have to be willing to rezone your property residential. That's not for us to tell you to do it.
No, and then are you going to charge us 7 hookup charges then? So
that we need, I don't know that. We need to talk about it, but isn't that the
exactly,
right
Dave,
direction?
This is my point, Dave. We've been wanting to talk with you guys about this for months, and I feel bad for you because you're stuck, because you guys need to get this approved so you can get it happening, and
Right.
you don't want to lose the grant money,
Well,
and we
that's
don't want
what-
to stand in the way of that.
I'm throwing it out now, and I want the rest of the council and the engineers to talk about it, because To me, it's an option we can do.
We're going to let you guys
We're
talk.
following the rules, but you have to
bet.
rezone your property.
I don't know that we're going to answer that today, but we need to really talk hard about it and come up with something that works.
I appreciate
You
your
know.
guys' time. It
Yeah.
was finally a chance for us to come here. I'm sorry, Aaron, if we're passionate about this. We've been waiting a long time to get
I
here.
understand, but I was watching you get pretty,
I am.
your blood pressure going up.
It
It's
is,
not good.
because I
He gets
hear
nervous
things
pretty
that aren't,
easy.
when things aren't true, we have to speak up against that. And so.
Mark,
appreciate
thanks.
your time.
Thanks a lot. So we can't answer that, I don't think, today, but I've spoken about this a lot and gone nowhere with it. I kind of feel like we're maybe going something. I like your motion, John. Maybe it's a little extreme, but I think we got to get someplace closer to it.
I'd like to hear about the zoning at residential. I mean, the time is now, not kick it down the road.
Well,
There's a process for that too, and we'd have to find out if that was,
we got about 30 people in here and we got a whole bunch of stuff to cover. So we certainly could have a special meeting about it in the very near future and discuss it. I'd like you to come back with some real good options that make sense.
What are those options?
Some real good options.
What are those options?
Lowering the assessment.
Mr. Mayor, what we're telling you, the options has to come from you. This isn't up to Phil or I.
I don't like our assessment policy.
Okay, so.
So
what do you
a
want to
different
do?
way of assessing maybe. Maybe not the best case use of property. Maybe not looking 100 years down the road that there might be a 14-story apartment building there. Right now, there's a church in a parking lot. Right now, Dodo's sitting in her living room. That's what's going on right now. And so somehow to take that burden out of those people.
The city has done their homework on this assessment policy.
It's never changed.
They've got an independent opinion of benefit out there. So it's not you sitting there because you know people. It's
Okay.
not emotionally or passionately charged. It's based on what they're saying the opinion of market benefit range is. There's a zoning. It's very straightforward what's applied. So I don't know, when you say options, what are the options? What is the right spot? Is
There's
the right
not
spot-
another way to assess? This is the only way? Hire the,
Other communities assess on a front footage basis. They figure out a percentage of the project cost. And the trick there is they can only assess up to this, what is considered to be the special benefit. What the city has done is taken that step. They got an independent appraiser who determined opinion of market benefit value to try and predict what that benefit is, so that the city, if they do this, they are assessing at an acceptable rate that's defendable in court. So what you're asking us to do, we've done. We didn't put this together, what that benefit was. We got a range. The city paid someone to give them a range.
well-
We applied that range. I guess my point is, I don't know what the option is. Because even if you go to a front footage, percentage-based approach, you have to tie it to what's defendable. So
where does the best case use of the property come into it? Where does it, you look out 50 years?
One other way to look at it, if we go to Front Foot, the church has the largest or one of the largest parcels, so they'd still would have the largest assessment if we go to that methodology. If we change it in any way you dream up, we still got to assess about 580 grand. We've said that many times. So if you lower somebody else is going up, because you got to get to that 580.
that's exactly the point. I mean,
And you're not going to like whatever answer we come at you, because then 10 other people got bigger assessments, and you can't go more, you can drop it 3%. We've already told you that.
Right. The 429 process has the ability for someone to appeal. If we've applied this consistently and it is not at a benefit that the judge believes it is, he's going to change that, and that's what they're going to, that's what they're
So you got to
charging.
leave it up to a judge because they have been appealing for a couple of years.
I would leave it up to the judge because that's the process, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor. A district judge reviews it He considers the information the city has. He considers the evidence that the person appealing provides. They make the decision, and then they're right because they're the judge. It isn't our knowledge of who's in this, who the constituent is that's bringing forth the appeal. It's not our view of what the appraiser put together. It's the judge. And that's the decision. That's the approach that you have set up with your assessment policy by following the 429.
That's where we struggle accepting that. And either we do or maybe we don't do the project. I don't know. And I want the project to go. I'm not against the project.
See, all this is about one project, you know? We're talking about 600 grand in the next 10 years, because I don't know when the next one is gonna be.
Here in a little bit, we're going to talk about road projects, and we're going to get into it there as well.
No, I don't know that we will. I think that's kind of settled. The sewer is the big one, I think, in my
Well,
mind.
but, no. Okay, thank you, Pastor.
Ted, come on.
See, Dave, the other thing you have to remember is that it costs a lot of money to run the sewer plant. And places like Moonlight Bay Restaurant, by assessing them, some of that or all of that money can be used to provide sewer service to them in perpetuity. So, and you know exactly how much it costs to run the sewer plant. It's a lot of money with a lot of zeros behind it.
It's the perpetuity that I get stuck on, Dave, because we don't know what the cost is gonna be 5 years from now. So
It'll be
they're
more
gonna
than what we're
contribute-
looking at now.
They're gonna contribute to it, no doubt, but we don't know what the cost is gonna be.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a
It'll be
question
more.
of the attorney and the engineer?
Sure.
We're talking the 23% and getting down to 20% assessment. That 3%, is that something the city can offset with the money that we have in the reserves?
Yes.
And then nobody else, we wouldn't have done anybody else's assessments that way?
You have to be uniform in a class, keep residential the same, lower commercial 1.8% or whatever the math is to get it down to 20. And now that we're not assessing that 40 grand or 30 grand or whatever 3% is, that's coming somehow out of this general budget.
Okay, I was just asking that question. I'm not sure if that's legit or not, but it was just a question that was in my mind.
You for sure can do that.
We've had a lot of good people work on this for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they've come back to us repeatedly with the same policy.
Or create a new zoning district, which takes time, but
Yeah.
you still gotta, if you reduce that rate, you're gonna have to raise the commercial and residential rates to get back to that number, to the 20%. But it is doable. That is one of your options.
Well, it's probably time to move on. We spent a
Yeah.
lot of time on this one.
And it's not over.
I know.
All right.
Referring this to another meeting?
Well, this was strictly a discussion at this time, Ted. When we get further down, then we'll get into the actual vote.
Okay. D4, I
D4.
think. Request Emily Food Shelf, what do they want? What did we give them last time?
$250.
Do we just do the same thing?
I'm for that. I'll make a motion to donate $250 to the Emily Food Shelf.
I second it.
Okay, Shar?
Zebert-Walls,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next, discuss finishing room and basement for confidential records. So I got a little story here I'm gonna tell. I came into City Hall last Monday. I asked Shar and Mike if they could clean out the mayor's room so I could spend a little time in there in the next month or so. And they informed me that it is not ethical for the mayor to share the same space as the staff. So in other words, I couldn't go into the admin room. But they would put a locked file cabinet in the conference room, and I could go there. So that prompted me to go and get because a year ago, we had moved to make a secured room down the basement, and nothing happened with it. So I went out and called up this Oberg Fence, which is a chain link fence company. I got a quote for it. and I brought it in here, we put it on the agenda. Then they went to Simonson and got a quote for lumber framed up that the, I guess, Public Works people would do, or we'd hire somebody. So the quote from Simonson Lumber is $2,550. It's for 8-foot walls on a 14 by 14 room, I'm figuring, because it's 8-foot studs. Well, they're 92 and 5/8 studs, so that's an 8-foot wall. I think the ceiling height is 9 or 10 feet downstairs, so that's $2,500. I went to this Oberg fence, they gave us a price of $6,100 to do a 14 by 16, chain link secured, bolted to the floor and walls room at 8-foot wall height with a chain link ceiling in it. So it's a box, it's totally secured. I don't care which one of these we do, the Public Works guys, I think. Ted, are your Public Works guys gonna build that closet downstairs?
Okay, but it's not. Yeah, it's not 2,500. From the looks of it, it's 3,500 and roughly
74.
Well, I don't think it is because that door is on.
Next page. The 2 doors in and out on there.
One door.
I think it says 2. That's what I read.
Oh, well, I don't know, what do you need 2 doors for?
I don't know.
But anyway, that door is right here.
Oh, it is.
But I don't know why there's 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Coming and
Yeah.
going.
you have to have 2 means of egress out of a confined space like that.
Really?
That's
closet?
code in a commercial building.
Okay. So I think it's $2,500. You come to the yard and pick up the material. What do you got, Tom? Now, on our last building, the file storage closet room, I think, was the highest mold concentration in that building because it was in a confined closet. That's why I came up with this chain link fence open air concept.
I just want to get clear in my mind what you said. The staff said that the mayor can't be in the administrative area?
He cannot spend time, have an office in the same space as the staff.
Is that a new law or something? Because
I called up the League
when I
of
was a
Ci-
city administrator, the mayor had the office next to me until we hired and that's how it was built, until they moved Ken Anderson in there because he needed more office space instead of a cubicle, but that was the mayor's office. We just spent $3 million on this building. Aren't there 3 offices in there?
I called the
So-
league attorneys up and I asked them, and they can't find anything that says the mayor
I
can't
mean, this
share the
is
space.
crazy.
But
Why are we
this is just
building
another
something in the
snapshot into the
basement when
life
we've
of
got
Dave.
office space up here in a brand-new building?
Yeah.
I thought one of those offices, when I was on that building committee.
I guess I'll ask Mike and
I thought
Chad,
one
did
of the
I depict
offices
that
was meant for the
conversation pretty
mayor.
accurately?
No.
No.
What we said was it would be a better use of space to have you in the conference room with the locked file cabinet like the 3 previous
No,
mayors
Mike,
did.
no.
So you can meet, I'm talking,
You said
please,
I am
sir.
not allowed in the same.
Dave, I did not, can I talk, please? I did not say that. What I said, it's inappropriate for elected officials to have office space in a secure area with the rank and file staff. That's why it's a secure space. And what we offered up as a suggestion, which has worked well for the 3 previous mayors, was we don't believe it's appropriate for elected officials to be bringing the general public through secure workspace, confidential files, things like that.
That's not what I said.
And
I was
having
gonna do,
meetings. I'm not done. And I also said, what the 3 previous mayors did was they felt it a better use of space so they could hold meetings with the general public and hold office hours in a public open space, which was a conference room. There's adequate space in there for meetings, there's a large table, there's computer access so you can show things on a large screen and that. No one has a problem with the mayor being in the office, Dave.
Okay.
Aren't the confidential files under lock and key? We spent a lot for that.
Currently, the confidential files are in the 3rd office that we're talking about, because
Which
that is the
was-
only secure place we have right
Was
now.
dedicated as the mayor's office
But
when we
So
built
if someone
this
is going to
building.
use the third office, we need a place to put those confidential files in
Aren't
the
they
basement.
locked? Aren't they locked?
They're in boxes.
That's where you keep your secure files, is in boxes, not in, what, are those file cabinets we bought for $4,000 or $5,000?
Anyway, that prompted me to get this and them to get that, so we've got a choice here. We could probably make this chain link fence 9 feet high and take the ceiling off of it for a little, probably over $4,000. Or we could put this in for $2,600 plus the time of the staff to build it. The availability of the chain link fence is, they could probably be here the end of this week if they got the go-ahead. I don't know what your guys' availability is, Ted.
Like I said, it'd take us a day, and in between snows and that, we could move in and do it in a day.
So you could probably do it this week?
Yes.
Okay. So it's, it's chain link. I like that because it breathes, but that's the only reason.
How often do you use the files? How often are you in and out of them?
Not very often at all.
Okay.
No, and we talked about this a year ago. We were gonna do it a year ago.
Well, I was one that brought it up.
Yeah. So it should be done.
Yeah, should have already been done because that was a year ago and we said we were going to have maintenance or Public Works do it on days when,
That's one of the things that got left behind.
yeah.
If we get this done, then we could pursue farther the availability of the mayor to be able to spend any time in the office, or we could pursue that if there's space. Right now, there isn't.
I make a motion that Public Works purchase the material and do the work.
Okay,
From Simonson?
Simonson's.
I'll second that.
okay, now the only comment on that, Ted, is it's 8-foot high walls here, so you're gonna have to adjust that,
Yep.
or do something.
It's 8 foot, we figured 8 foot, we got about 4 inches top and bottom that we're gonna leave open for airflow. There
Oh.
is ducting in there, but we're
Oh,
gonna leave
okay.
that much open on top
Okay.
and bottom, so we had that much open.
Okay,
Nobody's
good.
gonna come through it.
I figured it was 9+ feet, that ceiling height down there, but, no. Whatever it is, just make sure you figure it out before you order the stuff.
Yep.
So we got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Shar.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles.
Yes,
Okay, next is discussion regarding changing banks. I had asked to look out to the other banks in town to get a proposal for it. We did get these proposals back. However, I mean, Mike, unless you got a strong opinion, I don't think anybody's had any time to review them. Do you have anything you want to comment to that, or?
No.
So, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we table action until next month's meeting, since none of us looked at it yet.
Do we have a second?
Can
I'll
I,
second it.
can I just make one comment?
Yes, I was gonna do that.
You can, okay.
Go ahead.
2 of the banks did ask that we do a formal RFP, so that they were giving us numbers the same across the board for everything.
I thought that's what we were gonna do last month.
No, you asked her to contact him. You didn't direct anybody to put an RFP together.
I thought we did that once.
They
and
were,
then
it
came
wasn't a
back.
formal RFP.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we do a RFP to the banks for banking services for the city.
And I'll second that as well.
Is there any chance for discussion?
Sure, go ahead, Dave.
I did read them, and we're currently with Fransden.
We just got them.
And the letter said that since April of 1971, they've been providing the banking services to us at no charge, and they're not intending to charge us anything for the services moving forward. If we start changing banks, you've got who knows what checking account, you have all sorts of things that flow through. When you're looking at the different things that the ACH, automatic transfers, all of that has to be changed. Wouldn't you think the people we deal with are wondering, why are you changing banks now? They're gonna ask all sorts of questions. There's only work to be had by the staff to do this. There's no upside for us. It's just more work on top of the staff. And there's all sorts of chances for errors. If we're switching HSAs to, the employees are gonna get different documents. I mean, it's just a lot of work for nothing. We're not paying anything right now for it.
Well, unfortunately, Dave, the rest of us didn't get the banking stuff until we walked in the room tonight. So we haven't had a chance or an opportunity to
All right,
to
I
take a look.
understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Go ahead, Chair. I think,
Nevin,
yes?
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Sure.
Siebert Bowles.
Yes.
Yes.
Herzog.
Yes. Can I say one thing, though? I think we need to discuss very quickly, if we can. Are we moving, you keep talking checking account, Dave. Are we moving that, or what was it, 4M, which is our investments?
No, we're not moving any investments.
We've
So
already-
investments, okay, but last time we had said both. That's why I wanted to clarify. Just checking.
No, we approved for him for investments at the last meeting.
Yeah, but I mean, it also got discussed to move it, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay, next is discuss the policy for the use of interactive television at city council and commission meetings. Dated March 9th, I'm not sure what that is, but that must be this.
No, there's a policy in place for interactive meetings, and it was adopted on March 9th, 2020, before my time. And it says, "The city of Cross Lake shall limit each council or commission member to attend meetings via interactive television to twice per year."
Oh, so this is a 2020 document you got here?
Yes. Yes, it
Right.
is. And I guess if we're not going to abide by this policy, it should be changed, or either we need to start abiding by a policy that was adopted in March 2020.
I don't think I received that, because I don't remember reading it.
Were you on the council in 2020? I think you were.
It's in your additions. It was an addition to the
Was
agenda.
it, okay, I probably got it somewhere else then.
You seconded the motion, I think, Aaron.
I believe I did, and the discussion ended up into, it was because everybody was taken off on the same day, and we got concerned that there was going to be one council member sitting here, and that's what generated that conversation.
Oh, well.
So I think that policy needs to be voided. It's my personal opinion.
I second that.
You can't, you're voiding the whole policy?
Yes.
Yes, I
Say-
agree.
I
See, I
haven't
look
read it,
back,
so-
I look back at on our November 8th, 21 council meeting. And we all agreed to follow the state law that's been changed since that 2020 policy was written by us. We agreed to follow the state law, and the staff was supposed to keep track of how many times Dave Schrupp was going to be on a Zoom meeting.
So we voided this at that time when we changed it.
I don't think we did, Dave, and Aaron wasn't there on March of 2020, nor
Yeah, I
was,
I
Yeah, he
second
was. Weren't you?
what I just read.
Yeah.
Because I remember the discussion. I'm one of them that said, I'm not going to be the only person sitting, brand new to council, and not going to be the only person sitting up here, because everybody wanted the same month off.
right.
I think we,
But I thought,
November of '21, whatever, we made it basically a new policy. We said we'd follow the state, I think.
right,
Yeah.
I looked it up.
I think there was a discussion, but I don't think the policy was changed, maybe. I don't know. I asked the city clerk, and she said this one is in effect yet.
Then let's do away with it.
Well, I'm a real supporter of being here in person for meetings, but I've never seen this before.
I am too, but until we sit down at a meeting, Dave, and
So what
work
was the
this
purpose
out.
of this?
I didn't put
The
it in.
purpose is this policy is in place, and if you don't want to abide by it, then you need to change the policy.
That's why I made a motion.
Okay.
To void the policy. Be done.
I second it.
Are you saying to go to the state policy then?
That's the only thing we have today.
I'm saying, okay, you want to change this to the state policy and then It should be drafted as such.
Yes. Well, that's two separate things. One is this policy, void it, and then the second one would be draft one that covers the state policy. It might
Where you can
draft a new policy.
You
That's-
can attend by interactive TV for 3 meetings at a without being at a public accessible building. And after that, you need to be at an accessible building.
Right,
And I
the
don't-
league's got that, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I had asked the attorney, but I never got a response from him, what actually was the definition of a public accessible building?
I apologize if you asked me. First of all, a couple things. My memory of the November 21 meeting was that we tried to research and figure out what the state law was now after not post-COVID, but first stages of COVID. And we came up with that memo and we talked about it. And I thought the council all agreed that we need to change our protocol so that, like you did today, Mayor, you announced that he was not in attendance and Char was supposed to keep track of that for the minutes so you could follow that state law. I just was not aware that we had this old policy, so this contradicts what you guys did in November of 21. So I agree that you should get rid of this and reference the state statute. I will make a note if you want. I don't know what guidance
Well,
there is on a public
I'll tell you,
building.
I did look up accessible to the public definition, and it says, accessible to the public means any whole or part of property that due to its location and commercial or public purpose, the public or a section of the public has or may reasonably be expected to have access to the property. I don't think that you can say anybody's welcome to the building. That is not what an accessible to the,
To answer, if it's as specific as if, like my house, for example, would not fit that definition.
a residence would not fit that.
If it's in a, I
definition.
don't know where Dave's at, if it's in more of a, like the new senior center place in Cross Lake, where there's public spaces, that's a lot different than my house. Like, you could maybe argue that would be a public space because there's commons areas, in that facility. But my house, for example, clearly, I don't think you can just say, hey, anyone's welcome to come to my house. It's not a public building.
Well, that's what's happening, and I guess.
No,
I
well,
I
hold
live-
on.
I
Hold
have
on a minute. Hold on. The league, if you look at the League of Minnesota Cities, they do discuss the fact that what I'm doing is legitimate. And they do talk about people would actually come to your home, and you have to be ready for that.
Okay, all right.
You look at the league's interactive policy.
Oh, there's a memo on that or something? I have not looked
So-
for it.
I guess I'd like an advisory opinion.
This is letter of the law in the
Char,
Minnesota cities.
instead of me repeating that, can you please put that in every council member's packet for next
Absolutely. Yep,
meeting? And then everyone
absolutely.
sees the same thing.
Yep, Minnesota cities.
I have not seen it before.
So now, next year, 4 of us council people could go down to Florida, to Arizona, or to Texas and Zoom in
I thought.
at our residence.
I'm going off memory, but I thought that there needed to be a quorum, 3 of you physically here.
The law says 1.
Is it 1? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you could be
Yeah.
here with 1 councilman and the rest of them Zooming during the winter.
I think what I understand the law to be right now, first of all, you haven't voted on getting rid of the policy, so don't forget that. But my understanding of the law would be, right now, that's state law, we're a statutory city. If you think that's bad policy, when you campaign, you can speak to you're present and some aren't, and that's a political decision you can run for. But we got a state statute.
I think our policy should address that in our policy, saying, and define a public accessible building, or how many councilmen have to be here. I don't think it's going to benefit the citizens of Cross Lake if we have 1 councilman up here and we have 4 wherever Zooming in. I just don't think it's right.
Okay, let's move this along.
Sorry.
No, we're getting stuck here a lot tonight. So are we done with that? Mike, I'm going to,
There's a motion.
Well, there's a motion on the table, you haven't voted on it.
So the motion is to get rid of it?
Get rid of the
John
current
seconded it?
policy that was just referenced.
Okay, and John seconded it.
Yes.
So go ahead, Shar.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Zebra Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog.
Yes.
We do have a new election cycle coming up this fall, so hopefully we can cover stuff there. Next, Mike, you can take her over.
All right. Item 1 into my report is a follow-up discussion on the capital outlay for the police department, and Eric and I have met. And for the council's information, sure. What we've done is we've gone ahead and we've reconciled that fund balance, where we think it's most likely to come out after our audit. And we did this a little different than we've done in the past. We wanted to understand what makes up the beginning balance. We already knew that. We just wanted to prove it out. And then we also know that, how did we get that capital fund balance in there? It comes from a couple places. It comes from the levy. We have our capital levy. We had some budget adjustments during the budget amendment process. But then we also get donations. You see the Lions is listed there again. Just various donations. From the Legion individuals, we had some tumbler sales, the white tumblers you see people, and then an individual. So what we tried to do is we tried to match up the money that was spent for capital equipment with where the funding source for those dollars came from. When we did that, we came up with, we think it's going to end up at about little over about 115,968. And then the next question is, what's that earmarked for? Because remember, we had some money that we made some amendments for last year. We took $20,000 out of the police. We added more for equipment needs. And we want to know, where is that ending balance going to be spent, or what's the plan for it? Let's go down to the bottom of that page, Eric. So when we look at the $116,000 of fund balance, and then I'm going to let Eric go ahead and talk on what your planned use for that is. Now, not all of this was spent in 2021. Some of it was carried over, and we've identified, Eric's actually identified those amounts for us, so we can take a look at it. Then the last thing we did is, I know we had a lot of discussions on why are we buying police cars, one in 1 year and not the other, and two in other years. And so we projected what we think those levy dollars need to be for the year that we need to replace 2 cars. So go ahead, Eric.
Well, the balance is to the new cameras that we'll discuss here with my proposal that I've got coming up. The other donation expenses, what I'd like to see, there's a couple different things that are going to be coming up. Officer training, we're a little short on that, being we have 2 new officers. We've got a little more training that people are going through, and also a new sergeant, unexpected training that we weren't expecting. Ammo and some firearm replacement items that we'd use those donations for, non-budgeted items.
I have a question. When you talk about training, don't you get reimbursed by the state for training? You send in a report in July?
Yep, SHAR does a report annually, every year, on what we get for reimbursement. What that is, I'm not sure offhand. I think
Well,
it was like, I can't tell you.
last year, we budgeted $2,000
Okay.
for receipt of that reimbursement, and we actually got $6,000. So I'm thinking the training is probably covered.
Okay, if you're fine with us using reimbursement for that training, I mean, that's something.
That's what that's for.
Well, they have to go to the training first, so.
I know, but you send in that report
Yeah.
annually,
Yep.
and you get reimbursed for that
But that's
training.
not budgeted, so that's,
Well, it's in the budget, but you don't have, and I don't know why, but why the police department doesn't have an expenditure for training in it.
we do. I think
Where
it's
where's that
$3,500.
hidden?
Instruction fees,
208.
208, instruction fees. What is it, 5?
The classes that get reimbursed also include mileage and meals,
Right.
just so.
Everything.
And that's a separate expenditure.
It's
on there.
wages, mileage, everything. So you don't put it all in one lump
It's
sum?
not, no.
Where is it? It's all over?
Well, mileage is 331.
Wouldn't you consider that all training? So that's when you
No.
send in your report, you have it
It's
all
not.
there, nice and neat?
No,
Boom, okay.
I just do it how it's always been done.
Well, then I'd have to, yeah, I mean, you're talking salary and, to put all in one. I don't know that we can do that. We don't have a
Well, you
set-
wouldn't put the salary in there, but the other stuff, the fees for it and,
What we have is mileage, instruction fees, and travel expenses, those three items.
well, I do know.
Typically not a lot out of mileage because a lot of times squad is taken.
I do know that the training that you requested was more than what was budgeted for. We budgeted 2,000 revenue, that we were going to receive 2,000.
And
And we
that
got
is
6.
throw a dart at the wall
Oh, you
every
should be
year to
able
see
to,
what money comes back, because we don't know annually what is going to be in the reimbursement.
yeah,
So,
it's based off of
whatever-
insurance.
no, it's based
Isn't
on
it?
the legislature, what they decide to put into that.
Not 2% of, never mind, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So at any rate, the purpose of this exercise Eric and I went through was to identify where we started, what additions we had in there, what expenditures came out of there during the year, and what's our best guess at the use of what that balance looks like it'll be at year end. Okay?
Are you actually getting ammunition and those types of supplies in now?
Yeah, we're doing a little bit better right now. So I did find a vendor that I could get ammunition right now so we could train and qualify.
That's been a problem for 15 years.
Well, I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
August of 20, I ordered ammo. I still haven't gotten it yet, so. That was on the state contract.
But that stuff should be in the budget for 2022, your operational,
Yep.
what you need.
Yep,
Not-
that was-
Not out of the assigned balance.
Sure,
Sure.
sure.
It's in the
You're talking-
2022 budget. You
It's in
shouldn't
the,
be.
well, it was in the 21 budget. It's paid for. So the ammo was paid for. We're still waiting for it.
What's next?
I don't know.
You done?
Unless
Well,
anyone,
Are you saying that you're going to use that 115,000 in assigned balance? Or is that something that, I'm not quite understanding. You budget every year for a car and a half.
well, a
I'm not
car and a fifth.
understanding why you need that 120,000 in assigned balance.
Okay, so right now there's just under 116. 10,500 of that is donation expenses, which I won't use for budgeted items. And that was donated expenses, and if the council wants to use that for budgeted items, they can go and talk to the Haglins and the Legion and the Lions about how their donations are being used for budgeted items. The remainder of that, the 105, so that's gonna include 65,000 in this year's budget for the squad cars, correct, Mike? Okay, then we've got 23,000 carryover for squad cameras. And, what was the other?
Well, the balance was to make up for the unbudgeted
Oh,
remainder
right,
of your
so
cameras. The total, that's
that other
about 70,000.
46,900 was for over a 5-year period for the squad cameras and body cameras.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the way that would work is, you typically would lease those. What we would do at that point, depending on how the transaction is, if you buy them or lease them, or whatever, is the entire acquisition would show as being spent. And then we would allocate the balance of that over the remaining term of the lease. So we wouldn't want to levy for it again. It'd be just like a copier payment.
Eric, could you bring it down just a little bit?
Yep.
A little more.
A little more?
Where that 10,000 is. I'm trying to see it. It's about the fourth or fifth one from the top. At 10,116 right there.
That was 6 body cameras last January.
And
We'll
that's
discuss
money
that.
we're going to be getting back on one you're going to talk about on a level
Yep.
wow.
Yep,
Just so it's noted. at
parts
this
of it,
time.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
So, and as you can see at the bottom here, our account, we're looking at, we got 35,000 right now, 487 in the budget for the squad car in 3 years. So when we buy 2, then we're planning 20,000 over the next few years, but that still leaves us, because we took 20,000 out of the budget last year, out of that reserve, we're coming up short, and we'll have to levy that again.
Okay.
For that squad car.
Unless you take it out of assigned balance.
Smile at me all you want.
No,
I'm a cop, and the whole budget.
You want me to
auditing
frown?
thing,
I'm just
I'm not
saying
gonna go
unless
to
you take it
class for
out of assigned
That's why we
balance.
have Mr. Lyonese here as my finance director, so he lets me know if I got the
should
money.
look at him. I'm sorry. Okay.
Anything else?
So I guess I'll ask you then, where are we on the assigned balance? And we're
just-
not, and
I
I,
just provided it to you. That's what this is. That's where we expect it to be at the end of this year.
at the end of this year,
I'm
but,
sorry, the end of 2021.
okay.
That was your question from the last meeting.
Yes, I think that the city council should look at all the assigned balances that we have and decide if we want to move anything.
Then let's please make it a workshop versus a regular
Yeah, we
council
should have
meeting.
another meeting.
That's all I'm going to ask,
Yeah,
please.
okay.
And again, if any of you have questions, please give me a call. Please ask me your questions. I'm here every day. Can we go on to item 2?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Item 2 is a memo regarding a liquor license ownership change for Jensen's Ye Old Wharf. We just have an ownership change. The business is not changing. It's staying as is. And what we're asking for is council approval on transfer of the ownership from Gail Jensen to Catherine Palmer is requested, so council action and a motion to do that.
Make a motion that we accept this change of ownership for the Old Wharf.
Second?
I'm going to abstain from this because Catherine's my next door neighbor.
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Dave seconded it.
Are you ready to vote?
Yep.
Andrews?
Yes.
Schrock?
Yes,
Siebert Bowles?
Yes,
Nevin?
Yep.
Item 3.
Yep.
This is the approval of right-of-way vacation process and approval of ordinance amending Chapter 42, Article 5 for vacating streets. I'm not going to comment on this. You've all seen this. It's been debated between the council many different times. If you have any questions, TJ's here. He'll probably answer any of your questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. Down under submission, I'll wait till you get up there. Second paragraph under submission of roll vacation. It says, the next scheduled commission meeting, the city clerk shall be responsible for notifying the public. I thought that was the city attorney at one time.
It was the city attorney at one time.
Why did we put it to hers versus to planning?
Because the city attorney charges $300 an
Well,
hour.
But why not planning? Because that's something they normally do.
the city clerk does do the public notifications. It's in our job description, so that was Public Works' recommendation. You weren't at the meeting, but they recommended it.
Since we don't have to, I don't attend. I give you one person of peace. Thank you.
I'd prefer to say if you don't want, who ordinarily does variances and letting the public know? The attorney or you, Shar? If there's
That
a
would be
variance request.
Cheryl.
So Cheryl would done out of P and Z, which tells me even more what I'm thinking. If we're going to do it, I think we should say the staff will do this, that rather than saying who in the staff needs to do it, if we don't want the attorney to do it. So whether it's P and Z or.
But that's part of the city clerk's job description is public notification on these things. It is. I'm sure you can attest to that that's your job. Okay.
As long as, and she does, but city clerk might be, she's not gonna be here forever, but the city clerk needs to know that,
But it's a job. It's
the
not
variance to
her.
the statute, like it tells you who to notify. A vacation, there's a legal decision on who's in the plat or who should get notice, so, but she knows to ask me. But that's my point. There's a legal
I'll
analysis.
still
of
have
what
to
to
work with Brad to get it done.
Yeah, okay.
So does that,
I'll make a motion that we approve this right-of-way vacation process.
Second.
go ahead, Shar.
Schrupp,
Yes, thank you for working on it.
Zebra Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes?
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And just to clear, do we just approve the process, or do we approve the ordinance as well?
We should probably do
It's the
another
same thing
motion.
that you've had for quite a while, right?
No, the
It's a new
second page is
ordinance.
the ordinance, which should
Yeah.
have it.
Oh, do we have to approve the second page separate? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't. I thought it was all one piece.
I'll make a motion, we approve the ordinance relating to what we just approved.
Second it.
Zebra Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes,
Motion carries. Thank you. And because it is a small one, I plan to publish the whole thing instead of a summary because it's little.
sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, number 4, Mike?
All right, we're on number 4, give you an update on log sheets and the Uniform Chart of Accounts. We've had a lot of discussion on how do we track things and what are people's information needs. Comments from as simple as, well, just add a line in there and that's good enough, to what are we really trying to accomplish, and let's take a deeper look at this and try to present something that's actually useful instead of kind of ad hoc. I always go back to what's called the Minnesota City and Town Accounting and Financial Reporting Standards, and within that is located the Uniform Chart of Accounts. As a city, when our system was set up, we didn't always follow them to a T. We kind of used what we needed to get done what we were trying to accomplish. And when I say that, I'm not saying it's good or bad how we set it up. It was set up to accomplish what past councils have tried to summarize that met their reporting needs. Over time, those needs can change, and this is a good example of that. And so what I'm suggesting, one of the things that came up was, let's track how much time we're spending, or what is it costing us to plow the trails. If you look on the handout I gave you, it's on E4. In the middle of that page, it talks about Public Works. Now, we all know Public Works is inside the general fund, and it's Department 4300. In the past, what we've done is we said that's good enough for information needs. Well, again, times have changed. We want better information, more detailed. And one of the things we're looking at is how do we track trails? So we can do a couple things. We can just very simply add another object code for, call it an employee. Right now, every employee has their own code within each department. We could add a generic code within that same grouping. The danger in doing that is you're only going to get the salary for that person. You're not going to get the benefits all the associated expenses, whether it's the use of the street sweeper in the summer, plowing, sweeping the trail, or if it's someone for Public Works doing that trail. If you only want to know what the salary was, that's a quick, easy fix, but it's not going to give you a complete picture. So within that Public Works Department, we could go as far as we could add, what I'm suggesting we do is we add a sub-department in there, maybe even two of them. Call it ice and snow removal, call it what it is. The structure and the recommended structure under the Uniform Chart of Account exists to do that. That would be on the second page, back side of that first page of your handout. And that would include expenditures for removing ice and snow and sanding and salting streets, sidewalks, alleys, and bridges. Includes expenditures for equipment specifically designed or intended for ice and snow removal. So that would give you your snow removal costs, and it would give you everything related to snow removal, the fuel used, everything. And this is set up from the same standpoint, from the information we're required to report each year during our audit, and also with the state auditor. Right now, there's a little box on the form that we checked that says snow and ice removal is included in Public Works. So if you want to get more detailed, that's one way to do it. We can also put two departments in there, one called Trails, if that's what you want. Otherwise, we can just add one account and say this is where our salary is being allocated, just the salary, not any of the benefits, to do that. We can do that either way and get as detailed or as not as detailed as you want.
TJ, how do you do yours at the park?
TJ's just goes to the salary code for that person, and he keeps a separate log sheet on where they're spending their hours. Now, Ted does a similar thing with his folks. He requires them to fill out the timesheet and list on that timesheet what they did during that time, whether it's, and we'll talk about the utility plant later, whether it's streets, sewer, wherever they were spending their time, but it doesn't get allocated as such.
Where are the
nor
log
budgeted.
sheets?
Was there a question for TJ first?
Well, I was just saying, how do you do it?
Oh.
When I had employees, I just told them, tell me what you did today so I can put it down.
I mean, when I first started here, I was talking to Mike and trying to get a scope of how long it takes to do X, Y, Z, so I could plan my week, plan the month, this and that. So we started up with a spring, summer, fall log, and then a winter log. And in those separate sheets, it would list mowing, weed whipping, ball field prep, so on and so forth, building maintenance, and then they would jog down their hours. So I would know as a supervisor what my guys are up to, how long it's taken to do X, Y, Z. So it was more for my information than to put expenditures on it.
So to get it to where Mike's talking, you'd have to code it and get it in a brackets, give it to him, and then you'd punch it in and come up with salaries. But
No.
I don't think they have to code it, they just have to say what it is. The whole idea behind it was to find out what it costs for trails, snow removal.
Well, I wanted to find out how much time
I know
we're
you
spending,
did, but
how many
that's
hours
where it
at the sewer
started.
plant.
Well,
I'd like
and
to
that's
look
exactly
at.
my point. We had differing needs and different levels of detail for it. We had very detailed versus high level. And what we're trying to do is provide something that satisfies both of those needs. I mean, I do think there's value in learning how much money we spend plowing snow. And that's going to be weather dependent, of course, but.
I think how much time you spend at the cemetery, or cutting grass, or ditches, or how much time you spend shouldering the roads. I
And
mean,
that's what we're doing now.
There's a lot of things
Yeah,
that,
we've always done some general stuff, but we've gotten more specific on, like the parade.
Yeah,
We actually-
exactly.
How much time we're putting in on the
Yeah.
parade, removal of snow. So
storm
we're-
damage,
yes.
whatever, I mean.
I think we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about, on one side, how much it costs, and then on another side, how much time we're spending on doing something. If we're wanting to find out how much it costs to clear the trails in the winter, we can probably come up with those figures, but to come up with everything we do on a day-to-day basis and log every single thing and then break it up in each individual category, that would be tough to do for revenue. I mean, or expenditure, sorry. But it would be easy for Ted and I to come up with a log that our guys would fill out, and we'd have a month-end report that says this is what they did X, Y, Z, and this is what we can report. We could do it quarterly, we could do it annually.
Well, can't you just turn it in on a timesheet? I just don't understand. I don't understand.
That's what basically we're doing now, is off the side of the timesheet, there's a comment period, and my guys are putting in their snow removal, whatever they're doing that day.
Okay, so now we have that on the timesheet. So if we could get the finance part of in this package, then we would have like snow removal, public works, a 101, 43, 125, and whatever object code you want. 102 if you haven't been using, I don't see 102 on here. So then if you have snow removal on there, and there's 16 hours of snow removal, you would bring your timesheet into her and she would code 16 hours, and the payroll system should be able to calculate out 16 hours and put it in snow removal wages, right? I'm assuming.
I don't know enough about the.
Well,
that part of the
I'm thinking
system.
that's probably it, and Parks and Rec could do the same thing with their snow removal, whatever, I don't know, what's your code, 101, 45, something or other,
I mean,
and a 102.
keeping track of it isn't hard for us, just to
No.
write it down.
You don't have to know the code. If you put in there snow removal trails, they go to that code.
Just as an example, as other cities I've worked for, other communities, our time card had those codes on it, and the guys just put a half hour in that one, or an hour in that one, or whatever. And it was simple for her to track them.
Yeah, yep.
So
we
am I
would-
hearing you say you want us to set up an ice and snow removal sub-department? And
Not
the
a whole
trails?
department, can't you just stick it in there and 102?
No. All you're gonna get.
Well, you don't have a 43, 125 ice and, you don't have a ice and snow removal.
We'd create it to track it.
You can create it.
Yes.
You can put it in there.
Yep.
So are all your public works 43,000? Or are they 43,1, 43,125? Can't you
Don't-
put that in the department and just put it in public works, 101, 43,100?
The way this was set
102.
up, 4,300 is public works. It's within the general fund.
But can you
The
add to that 43,100? No?
Yes, we can, and that's what we're suggesting we do. We have categories within the generic 4,300, and they're listed there on those 2 pages. And we'd it'd show up as its own separate department under Public Works as snow and ice removal. And then you
Okay.
could budget for it that way. The danger in just picking up what you're suggesting, just add a 102 in Public Works and call it snow removal,
Well, you know it's snow removal because it's
but you're not picking
43,125.
up any of the associated benefits with it.
You
You're
won't
just-
break that, your payroll doesn't break that down then?
No, it does not. It's department-specific. That's how
Then
most
you
systems
can't,
work.
you can't put that in your payroll? I guess I'll
Yes,
let
we
it go.
can. And I'm showing you a way that we can do that and report that.
The whole thing is it started out with the trail snow removal so that we could make a prudent decision on whether we want to do the snow removal on the trails. And then it got to be logging everything. So that's the way it is. And I guess we should know where the wages are going. It's really not a hardship. You walk in there and you write down 4 hours snow removal, 4 hours, whatever. I don't
And if
know
you
what
want
they
to
do.
keep track of it that way and not know what your ice and snow removal costs are, that's fine. But you're going to miss everything that you're trying to capture. If you're just
No,
interested in the log sheet and hours, that's easy. And that's what we talked about earlier. We also talked about that we've got different information needs.
Okay.
And they're not in agreement with each other, and that's what we're trying to solve.
Okay, I think maybe we should, I'll come in and talk to you and we'll get it straightened out.
Well, I'm giving you
If
options.
the city council will allow me to do that, I don't want to overstep.
TJ, if I asked you, how much time in the summer do you guys spend grooming or screwing around with the trails? Would you have a gut answer?
I mean, I can go look at the spreadsheet that I don't have.
But I mean, third of your time? or-
See, we've got two different issues. We have a spreadsheet that TJ, a log sheet that he wants to know we're spending our time. And then we have a different question saying, I want to know what put a dollar on that is. And we're providing you two alternatives to do both.
Well, but, I mean, I would think
But
that,
you're just you're missing the point if you want him to log it on a separate deal. I want it, the deal was to have it on the financial statements.
All I know on my side is what my guys do every single day. That's what I'm gonna say. They log, say it's Monday through Friday, it's in the summer, mowing, weed whipping, ball field, building maintenance, it's all listed there. They log their hours. I know that from my spreadsheets. That's
so my
as far
question
as
was,
I-
how much do they spend on the trails? Don't you say
I mean, I haven't-
25% of their time? I mean, would you have?
10% probably in the summer, but
Okay, 10%. I mean, that kind of gives an idea. That's,
last year was
at
different.
least
'cause
to
there was
start
not a lot
there.
of
You know,
rain,
we
but-
could build on it, and we could get more detailed, and we could do whatever, but
Yeah, add trails to it, because I'm sure they don't do that for 10 minutes. They must be out there sweeping for
Well,
a
mowing.
couple
and-
hours, mowing.
Let's just say weed
hours.
eating on Manhattan Point is no fun task. There's a lot of.
yeah, but you know, you got a gut feeling of how much time you spend there. Okay. And if we get to walking trails on the snow pass, we'll have to figure out how to budget for it. But you got your hours, we can put a number by it and put a budget by it. It doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No. The second part of that discussion on keeping track of trails was, I think you were talking too also about having more clarity in the different areas where the folks in the sewer department spend their time. And that's really an easy one to do. When our system was originally set up, you know, the sewer fund is an enterprise proprietary fund. The only problem is we didn't use the proprietary fund numbering system. We used the numbering system within the general fund under Public Works. That's an easy thing to fix, but if you go to that third page of the handout I provided you, on this bottom half of that page, there's a standardized numbering system for all sewer expenses incurred in the operation of the sewer system. There were questions on how much time do you spend on maintenance, cleaning, lift stations, and treatment plant. It's very simple. We can add those to the utility fund, and Ted's guys can track that. Right now, the way that it works is we know in total how much the salaries and benefits are for Public Works and the sewer plant. However, the way that it's been allocated has been, we put Ted's salary in the sewer plant and everyone else goes to Public Works. When you do the math on it, put a pencil to it, you get to the same number. It's just how do you want to get there? You know, if you take 15 or 20% of everybody's time and take it out of Public Works and put it in the sewer fund and take Ted's Public Works time and put it in Ted's sewer time and put it in the Public Works, you get the same number. But if you do want more clarity as how much time and effort is spent in those areas, we can set these up, and that's very easy to do. If you want
Okay.
that, we can provide it.
Since it's easy, let's set it up.
I just think it's, yeah.
Do I have a consensus on that for all of you?
Yes,
Okay.
But I mean, do we
Yes.
need a motion for it, or?
No.
All right.
no,
But it should be noted in the minutes, general consensus of the city council
Yeah.
approved
I think
it.
we understand
And
what we
I'll
need to
agree
do
with
with it.
that, with the
Okay.
consensus.
Let's get on to the next item then. Item 5 is in your packet. Every year, Sourcewell holds its annual meeting of the Representative Assembly. And what they do is they ask all the member parties to attend. And this year's meeting is at the Town Hall at Madden's. Everyone knows where Madden's is. If you'd like to go, one or two of the council members, the elected body, which is the council, are invited to attend. If you'd like to go or designate two of you to attend, please let us know and we'll see that to get registered for it. But you do have to register by March 4th. So you can take a look at that, and if you want to go, let us know. Okay?
Okay.
Last item is we're hearing a lot of information about the the Loon Center, and I've got some information to share with everybody, very preliminary information. Last week, I received a phone call from John Mobeck. Everyone knows who John is. He's the director of the Loon Center. And one of their board members, who just happens to be a lobbyist. And what they're looking at is creative ways to finance the projects they're trying to do. And one of the things that came up in this last bonding bill was there may be an opportunity for them to obtain some money from the state through the bonding bill in the form of a grant. Now, both John and their lobbyist or board member have been working with our representatives, Dale Lewick and Kerry Rood. We've all worked with them before. Both of them are willing to support his effort to try to request some of that money. The amount, they're not quite sure of. They're still working out a lot of the details. One of the things they're wanting to do is there are strings attached to that money. They would need to run whatever they get, an amount, through the local governmental entity, which is Cross Lake. How would that work? Right now, the answer is we don't know. We're in the early stages of trying to figure that out. And what they have asked is, once there's a little more clarity around that, how much they're asking for, what the restrictions are on it, and how the dollars would flow, and how that would work, whose obligations would be what, and how the whole process would work. They're thinking it would run similar to like what they did at one point with the National Eagle Center down in Wabash, I believe, but they're just not sure yet. They'll have more clarity on that over the next few weeks. And so just as a heads up, look forward to hearing from them at our March meeting. So if you have any questions for them, I would direct them to John Mobeck, okay?
Thank you.
That's what we know as of today, but just a heads up for that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, Eric, you better hurry. You're gonna miss the game.
Good or bad?
They won 6-1.
Perfect.
So, what you're looking at here is a request from the Public Safety Committee. I don't know, Aaron, if you want to take this.
Yeah, I will. We're having event centers. We have two of them located right in that area where that orange line is. One is the old
Remmoral
barbecue place, and then the other one is where the hardware store was, and is now gone. But they have converted them, and they can legally hold events there where they bring a lot of people in. And we got concerned. We took care of the first one by getting, what was it, Schaefer Road?
Right.
Zoned, and you guys, the council agreed to post that as no parking, I assume, once the frost goes out. And they'll get that done. But then we started looking at Highway 3. And, well, I'll tell you what, at highway speeds, somebody parking along Highway 3, either side, east or west side, and they decide to walk across. Kids don't walk across, they dart. And we're going to get a kid hit, killed, injured. So what we're asking is, can we get the council to agree to have, I think it would be Ted, approach the county to get no parking signs from Schaefer all the way down to, is it a Black Bear?
Do we want to relook at that? I guess when I was thinking about this, and there's a lot of space between those 2 points. Here's Remworld, and then up here is the old hardware store, Ben Gibbs' place. We could probably look at, in between those 2 points, a couple hundred feet, both north and south of, and then Schaefer Road up past,
People park.
I mean, you wouldn't need to go all the way up to Crosstech on something like that, it's
Okay,
a
no,
lot of
I'm
no
fine
parking
with it.
zone.
We had just discussed, that was the area that ended up being discussed.
Seemed a lot shorter when we were discussing it.
Yeah, it did. But I think we should approach the county, and I guess I would like a consensus of council to agree that we approach the county, and Eric has it marked out there. and no parking east and west side.
A little further, you think, 'cause that's up. Yeah, no, that's 6-6 Marine there. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. You're right.
Does anybody park on that road, Eric?
What's
Does anybody ever park out there?
I mean, we don't have an event center there yet, so what I would ask is that we would go to the county, Ted or myself, and go to the county with your permission and say, this is what we've got, this is how many people we can expect to have at these places. Can we take a look, just like we did with Bourbon Room and
Yeah.
and other places, you know, north and south, those entrances, can we expect a couple 100 feet on both sides of the road? So we're discouraging people from parking on County Road 3.
I don't know if Eric and the group had thought about this, but remember the Lutheran Church holds their rummage sales? Do they get a lot of parking on County Road 3?
No, it's all on 103 and in the parking lot.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up.
Yep, I think about that too.
Thank you.
You want a motion for that?
Say, Eric, I was wondering if, Eric, did you consider going all the way to, what's the Kimberly Road? I mean, I can see people wanting to park over there and walking.
Well, they have a lot of parking, especially at the north one. They have, well, actually, both of them do. But the south one has a great deal of parking, 80 spaces, I believe.
I don't think
Maybe
there
Mark
should
or
be any
Jerry
parking.
remember.
Yeah, I
better.
talked to Worley about that, and he didn't think it was gonna be a real big issue.
Yeah, and then the other one, he's gonna have to clear space. Rimworld's gonna have to clear space to get the spaces that I think he's gonna
Right,
need.
and he's the one who didn't think it would be an
Yeah.
issue with County
Yeah.
Road 3.
Renwell said he would take out the back and
Yeah, but that's something he'll have to do at some point. But I think we're just trying to prevent somebody from pulling up and
There's
saying,
much
well,
parking
park
on
right
the
here
county
and run
road,
in.
there's gonna be problems with it, especially at night and drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we want to just discourage people from parking County Road 3, east and west side of the road, you know, a ways away from each event center.
Go ahead. Go
Only
ahead.
thing is where's the money gonna come from for the signs, because the county's gonna bill us for it.
Yep.
They don't do it for free.
Bummer.
How much is a sign, Ted?
I don't know what
A
they're
no
gonna charge.
parking sign?
I don't know what they're gonna charge for these. I do not know.
Could you
How much
find
is the
out so
sign?
we can maybe,
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I'll ask.
okay, thank you. But could I get either, should it be a motion? I think so.
All right, make a
I
motion.
make a move, we request the county put up no parking signs, and Eric has the description of where it should go. So it's, I'll let him provide that to the county.
I'll second that.
All right, go ahead, Char.
Nevin?
Yep.
Andrews?
Yes.
Schrupp?
Yes?
Siebert Bowles?
Yes.
Herzog?
Yes.
Can we have that in the motion too? The exact location?
I think,
I mean, can you provide that to Shar for the motion?
At the location where to place them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if he would provide that for the minutes, so that we have them in the minutes. That's what I'm
I
talking
think we were
about.
just gonna look, my thoughts were just gonna be a recommendation from the county on how far on either side would be a good from
So
county
if-
highway.
Yeah, if you could just give that to Shar, so
Yep.
she can put that in the motion.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Secondly, in the budget, we have monies for replacement of firearms for the police department. It would be 6 Glock, Gen 5 9mm handguns, and 4 Colt M4 rifles. Right now, our current sidearms are about, they gotta be getting 10 to 15 years old. So I wanna get it on a rotation that we replace them every 10 years. It's just kind of one of the things through, going through training and stuff that I heard is good practice for police departments. So they are $470 a piece, $2,820. That is a budgeted item. The Colt M4 rifles are $881 apiece. 2 of those are Vietnam-era M16s. So they're over 60 years old, 70 years old. Still good guns, but they belong to the DRMO, which is the military surplus, and I want to get them out. I don't want those rifles anymore with us. I want to have our own rifles. So those are $881. The other 2 rifles are LMTs, and they're 223s, M4s, and they're about 20 years old. So I'm looking at replacing those. Those I can probably turn around. In the memo, I asked for permission at some point that we declare them surplus, and I could probably get around $1,200 for the 2 of them combined to sell them out. And I'd bring them down to Bill's gun shop and have them sell them. So with that, when talking with the officers and talking to what they'd like to see with the police department, they mentioned that they'd like to have the Hollison sights, or red dot sights that would be placed on the sidearm. Those are $351 a piece, and along with that would be the holsters and the mounting plates and the sights, which aren't on here. That price is in there with stuff. That would be used, or that would be paid for with donated funds. So that's what we'd be looking at. The other thing, the officers have an option to buy back their old firearm at $375. If they want to do so, $295 of that would go to the city. So if all the officers bought their guns, we'd get $1,770 back on that. Otherwise, they'd give us $295 when we trade them in per gun.
So we get $1,770 either way.
Either way.
So the cost would be just south of $8,000 for the whole package.
Yep. Firearms would be bought through Keesler's Police Supply, and the sights and, well, the firearms and the holsters would be bought through Keesler's. The sights and the mounting plates would be bought through Dave Tim, who is a sergeant with the police department in Baxter, and he got us the sights $20 less. So figured we could go with him, and he said he would also help us train in those 2.
Do your guys have sights now?
Yep, just the regular,
Not a
2-in-1,
dot sight.
not red dots on their, not on their sidearms. It's just kind of a thing, the way things are going right now. So just looking for a motion on that. If I could, please.
I move that we let Eric go ahead with his proposed firearm optics purchase.
I'll second it, and it's a price tag of $7,946.
Okay, sure.
That's in the budget.
Yeah.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yep.
Motion carries.
What do I push, TJ, so I can, all right, you got it? Thanks, buddy.
We got it covered.
So next is a quote for squad video cameras and body cameras. Our squad cameras are from 2014, so they're 8 years old. They've been great cameras, so we had a couple other quotes for different cameras, and we decided that knowing how these things are, they're the best ones to go with again. Also with their cloud storage of 5,000 videos that we have right now, if we had to convert that, I think there'd be a large price for that. So these, this is the cost of a 5-year program that would have 6 squad cameras and 6 body cameras.
So how old are the body cameras, Eric?
Body cameras are a year old. I was going to get to that. We bought those last January, and had I known that this program was out there, I would have done it last year, but it wasn't. And the salesperson at the time is now no longer with them. So they are willing to really do us a good deal. They would give us some return money on the 6 body cameras that we have. They're the same style body cameras. So we would see a savings in probably the first year. Annually, the cost would be, where'd it go? $13,951 for the 6 body cameras, 6 squad cameras. That would be all inclusive of cloud storage, maintenance, warranty, replacement. In 2.5 years, the body cameras would be replaced. So you're actually in that 5-year plan getting 12 body cameras.
What did the body cameras cost last year?
I think it was about,
That was the number I pointed out.
well, it was the number you pointed out, but there was other costs involved in that 10,900 with that. There was some server costs or something in there too. I don't recall exactly what it was, but it was around about $8,000, $9,000 for the 6 body cameras.
A year ago.
A year ago, yep.
And now what are you gonna get for them? You don't know?
I haven't been told yet, no. But if you look at it, annually, we spend $5,900, where'd that go? Thought I had that in there. About $5,900 in just cloud. So it's $495 or $5,400, $495 per camera, okay? Then we also have another about $3,000 to $4,000 in maintenance and warranty costs that we have. So of that $13,951, you're getting $8,000 to $9,000 in your storage and maintenance, warranty, all that stuff costs. So it's not a bad price when everything's said and done after 5 years.
So do you put that cloud storage in capital outlay? And I'd like to know what we're going to get for those cameras we just purchased.
I don't know that I would expect a ton.
I mean, can we have this deal without the cameras and keep the body cameras we got now?
We could, but then I'd be replacing those body cameras in probably a year and a half, because they won't warranty them after a certain date.
Can we find out that date? I just,
Yeah, well, it's
you know,
less than-
I'd like to
it's
know
3
what the
years.
refund is on how much we spent on those cameras and what
Yep.
the refund is. Before I would, I think we should know that
Okay.
before we move forward.
Well, yeah, and you got them a year ago, and you get 2 more years out of them, and, I
Yeah.
mean, why
well,
why
But
wouldn't?
then I'm
Well,
looking at a different program, or somebody might be, looking at a different program in 2 years, and we gotta get those squad cameras in. So if you buy it as a package, I understand, oops, I did it last year, but I was planning on the whole thing last year, and that wasn't available at the time. So,
Maybe they'll have a really good program in 2 years.
I think you gotta come back with what is the program without the body cameras and see what it is. I mean, we can't throw $10,000 a year away.
okay.
That-
Nope, I get that.
I mean, that's my advice.
I will still have, even if I just do the cameras, squad cameras, I will still have 495 times 6, so almost $3,000 in
A year.
just
Storage.
storage for the body cameras. And then I go on to the squad cameras, and then not including what the maintenance is, which is probably about 15 to 2,000.
Well, if you could come back and try to get 2 more years out of those cameras and come back and tell us what it is, you know?
Still gotta get the squad cameras, though.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what do I do
Still
there?
needs approval for that. But
Well,
we're not-
yeah, no, I mean, But do we want to look at the whole package, or do you want to just get the approval for the
Well,
squads? And
That's what I'm asking. What do you want me to do with the squad cameras for 2 years? You want me to go out 2 more years with those?
if you're able to, I mean, why?
All right, at 8 years old. Okay.
Well,
This is my
mean-
recommendation. You asked me for recommendations. This is what I'm
So,
doing.
I think
So-
what we want to know is what we would get for those cameras.
Okay.
Before we make this decision, we're not deep sixing it. We're just saying, we're
Well-
not going to have,
It's not a consistent message, understand? Okay?
okay, well, the message from me is that if the cameras are going to work for a couple more years, and why not get a couple more years out of them? Because we're not going to get anything for trade-in for them.
Okay?
So the message is let's just try to utilize the money the best we can, you know, and
Okay?
$10,000 for cameras a year ago seems kind of wasteful to me.
Yep. And as I said, I don't disagree with you. But I'm also trying to
So,
find what's best going forward.
I know, and if you got squad cameras and body cameras and they both work together and it's X, but I mean, I would like to see what that is instead of,
My fear is we're gonna end up paying a lot more money because we don't get the bundle package. And I think about year 2 or 3 from now, you're gonna find that these costs are gonna double
they're always
if
going
we
to be
don't.
more.
And
Nice to know.
that's my fear.
I'll bring
Nice
back
to know.
costs next month.
Okay.
Okay. Next item is body camera audit. We are required by law to every couple of years, few years, have an independent audit of our body camera system. That was done last year. I got the results of it, on February 7th, or 6th, actually. And you have the results in your packet. There were 2 discrepancies found. There was, one was that the body camera policy is supposed to be posted on the department's website.
Is it there?
It's there. That's been fixed. Why it wasn't there, I don't have an answer for you. It was back in 17 before I was in charge. The second item was that another discrepancy, that videos were deleted in 2017 and 2018 prior to the retention period. State law requires a retention period of at least 90 days of body camera video. Of those videos, which were about 24, there were no incidents of those being deleted that involved an incident or anyone in the public.
what would cause them to be deleted?
I deleted them.
Okay, so it's
I
it's
deleted
not an
them
accident.
when we
it's-
were on our own server, when we had our in-house server, there was just times where we were getting close to our full thing of video. And in that circumstance, in those 2 circumstances, I believe they were in March of 17 and 18, there was probably a lot of body camera footage from the parade, from installing the cameras, from whatever it might have been, non-incident related. So it was just a thing to save space and whatever.
Oh, but the policy is not to delete them,
Policy is not to delete them.
yeah.
For 90
That's
days.
correct. For 90, a minimum of 90 days. We
Okay.
go beyond that right now. Since 18, our policy has exceeded the retention period of the state.
So you don't get in trouble or anything for that, you just don't
Nope.
do it again, kind of.
Yep.
Try not to do it again.
This audit has been submitted to the state representatives and state senators that are, I don't know, there was about 20 of them or something that are all on committees of data privacy stuff. So the audit has been submitted to them, which is a state requirement.
You need a motion that we accept the audit?
I think so, yeah.
So I so move that we accept the body camera audit report.
I'll second that.
Okay, sure.
Zebra-Vols,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Tyler Glenn was going to be here, but instead, we're going to be honored by the presence of Mr. Finch from the EDA.
Well, good
Who
evening.
promised not to talk for 45 minutes.
That's right. I did, I promised that. I said 3 minutes, time me. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Dean Fitch, President of Cross Lake EDA. And I know you have a busy schedule, but in your packet is a very short one-page summary of how we're addressing the year-end report and then looking forward. First off, the summary page kind of hits the highlights of where we are and where we're going. First thing I'd like to point out is that we have changed our meeting schedule. We are meeting as a full council 4 times a year. And then we have work groups that, depending on projects they're working on, will meet through the time. And we've had several of those. The purpose of the work groups will be to address particular projects that are going on. As an example, we're in the middle of, as you know, reviewing the comprehensive plan for tactical operations. And one group has already met on that. Community experts would come together and worked on that. And we're working with Region 5, who's assisting us in making sense of that and putting it back together. Our ultimate goal is to come back to the council with an update on each of those 9 sections of the comprehensive plan. The second one is on economic vitality, and that group of community experts is being assembled, and we'll meet soon and begin that particular project. One of the other important things that happened is that BLADIC is a major part of our outreach effort, and they have agreed to take on at no additional expense to us, coordinating with Cross Lake Communication, our website, marketing assistance on updates, as well as developing materials for us. And the truth is that our staff, our people, the individual people in the committee, Patty Norgard principally and myself, have written a lot of this material, and we think we can do better by having BLADIC take that on and do it for us in a professional fashion. So that's what's going on. And they will continue to do that. We've had great success from Cross Lake Communications. They continue to host our website free, and they update it for us as we have new things come along, and BLADIC will be submitting those. We've had several meetings with them so far to keep that up to date. At the end of the day, the most important thing I have to say to you is that we're continuing to focus on our mission statement, which is develop and promote the economic growth and welfare across Lake while protecting the environment. So, and seeking out, and we've talked to a lot of different organizations that might want to be a part of the Cross Lake community, but they have to be the right ones, because what we heard from the public going all the way back to 3 years ago and forward is that we want to maintain this up north posture. We don't want to become a Lake Minnetonka, you know, that sort of thing. So it's important that we find the right kind of organizations that will come here, and because it's a great place to live, it's a great place to work, and we have some wonderful people who will bring businesses here. So anyway, that's our plan. We're focused on getting through the comp plan this year. We'll be coming back to the council, probably a couple of them at a time in the next quarter, and then through the rest of the year, we're hoping to get the rest of those done. And that will be a big relief, because that's been a big task for us, but an important one. So let me stop at that. Any questions for me tonight? See, that was less than 3 minutes, guys. Did you, Mr. Mayor, did you note that?
Was it really? Come on now. It was close.
You turned the thing.
Oh, that's what you were pointing at.
Thank you.
Thank you much, Dean.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, Ted.
Good evening. I know the hour's getting to be long, so I'll try to go quickly. Space needs. One of the questions was, what does the park need? And we talked about a bigger building being built down there. We looked at what we have as far as facilities that could be moved, and you charged me with asking that mover that Mr. Nevin knows. We've contacted him to move that 30 by 40, 10-foot sidewall building down to the park area is $6,000 is what they quoted us.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy, good guy to work for. Two things to note is, right now that building sits on 2 blocks, and that's what he quoted us as we put it back on 2 blocks. You know, he picks it up with the trailer at that height, and so that's what he's assuming is coming. If we wanted higher than that to get more headroom in it, it would be a little bit more money.
30 by 40.
It's 30 by 40, and it's insulated, wired. It does need a new roof, new soffit and fascia, and a good coat of paint.
Is the roof shingles?
It's shingled right now, yeah. They're getting tired.
Yeah.
So that's the option we looked at the park. TJ and I talked about, will that fit his needs? Probably would fit his needs for the next 10 to 15 years. Is that a good way? We're gonna have to put in a concrete floor, we're gonna have to clear the site. We figured we'd clear the site ourselves, get the concrete slab prepared so that when they bring the building, it's ready to go and set down. We're gonna have to get a furnace in there. We're just thinking of a ready heater, you know, one of those. Resner that sits in the corner for, I don't know what they are, $1,500, $1,200 now.
So you have to spend 30, 40 grand.
Well, we were thinking we're in that 20 grand by the time we do the slab on that. It's, and we want to get harder numbers, but that's, we're getting closer to where we're at.
It'd be quick. You got 6 for moving. Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what we talked about for there. Yeah, the building is sheet rocked, it's insulated, wired, it's got a 200 amp service in it. Basically, we'd want to get the service from the other building that's there next to it to this building, because we don't want to pay another meter. We'd just soon have it work off that same meter if we can with growing power. Same thing with the gas. So we have just 1 meter charge rather than 2 meter charges.
Right.
That's what we looked at down there. As far as the shop, I actually have a meeting on Wednesday, the 16th. March 16th with the county to talk about space needs with them. So we're getting closer. They finally come back to us what they're looking for. We've identified, as far as Public Works, you know, we're not gonna change a lot. We might get 1 more employee in the future. As far as the city, our equipment is in that facility. It's just real tight. And now we're waiting to see what the county is leading us towards. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're waiting to see it's in their ballpark, waiting to see from them where we.
Who and where are you having that meeting with them on the 16th?
At the shop. I'll send you an invite.
Who are you gonna meet with?
Jory, myself, and Mike, John. He's their facilities manager.
Okay.
And I'll send you a link if you want to come.
Yeah, I might be curious.
So that's what I know as far as where we're at, as far as the space needs as of yet. The next one would be the resolution.
Okay, but Ted, last time we met, you said that you had plenty of space. Now you're saying you're a little tight.
Well, what we mean by tight is, when we go to put the trucks in there, there's 7 trucks and our 2 big trucks. And to back them out, it takes 2 people, because you cannot see the vehicles behind you when you back out of this shop. It's just, they're really, really tight. So what we'd like to do is that if we do build an addition, it would be more for the bigger trucks, and that's where we say we're tight. That's what I mean by tight. Just over time, it becomes an issue, so.
Yeah.
We've cramped the vehicles just as much as we can to get them in there and get all of them in there, and it just makes it really a bugger to get back out without backing in the other equipment behind you. It hasn't happened yet, but. Okay. The next one, I guess, is this resolution number 21XX.
We have F3B, Ted. F3B.
Oh, sorry.
3B.
I was on B1. I apologize. Awarding the bid for municipal sewer extension project to Casper Construction in the amount of $2,088,000 after the final assessment hearing is held, which should be done as soon as possible. That was the commission's recommendation at its Public Works of February the 9th.
And this takes a 4/5 vote to move this?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion that we move this project forward.
I second it.
Do you have that resolution handy? I didn't put them in the pack.
Which one
I
you looking for,
should,
Shar?
I should add into there that I'm looking for the cost, here it is. The total cost that we are seeing here right now is $2,537,180. It's correct, right?
If Phil's math is right, yes.
Yeah, no.
So Phil, how do I say this? Do we
need a second.
Do we got a
I
second?
don't know which one
I
of these
second
it
it.
is.
I didn't catch it.
Do we have an agreement that we're going to do something to look at assessments? Are we done with that?
So you're at the point where, according to your assessment, your improvement plan, you're at number 10 where you receive bids on the improvement following your procedure. The engineer tabulates the bids, makes a recommendation to city council about award. Where the city's at in this situation is you have a good bid. You have a responsible, responsive contractor, one of the 11 bids you received. So we know we got into a competitive market, slightly over what we estimated by 7.5%. But what the city's confronted with is, what's your process of doing this? If you are of the mindset this project has to get done, and we'll work through what the final assessment is, through the public hearing where you have the final assessment and you have the public in, the residents, the general public, if they want to attend, you take the input, you make any amendments you want at that point, and then adopt. Then you could take that tact of accepting this, getting into a contract with Casper Construction, and at the same time, telling us to schedule assessment hearing as soon as possible. That's one tact. Another tact is, you could say, let's schedule the assessment hearing and get that done and simultaneously look at awarding this. Because we put 61 days on the bids that we received, trying to predict whether the city wants to go through the point of approving award or whether you want to wait until that assessment hearing. So you have options here, and that's what I think our recommendation to the city is we have put time in there if you want to do this simultaneously at the assessment hearing. If you're sure you're going forward with the improvement and you want to tinker with the assessment afterwards, then we would just say award the contract, schedule the assessment hearing, and have that out. But we would recommend you do the assessment hearing as soon as you can, as soon as notifications will allow, versus what's traditionally probably been done in many communities at the end of the project. Just get that out of the way right up front, talk to the people, find out what, where they're at, and then you start the process. If people want to appeal, you start it right away.
So the recommendation from Public Works is, it's kind of predicating that it's hooked to the final assessment. What you're saying is we vote on the award, period, and then we schedule an assessment meeting as soon as we can.
I'm saying that you need to determine that process that you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable that you're doing this project regardless, then you can award, get the contractor going with getting the paperwork in place. They can order materials. You can assure you stay on a schedule. If you want to go through a procedure of having the assessment hearing first, and then that same meeting moving forward with the project, you're going to have I don't know what the notification period will be, 21 days for round numbers to get it noticed?
It has to be 14 days published in the newspaper before the meeting and 14 days stamped before the meeting.
Okay. So, and again, that probably goes with what your newspaper publication cycles are and stuff, so.
At least 3 weeks, I would say.
So
from
3 weeks out, you could conceivably schedule this assessment hearing if you felt like you wanted to have the assessment hearing before you made final award.
My opinion is we need to get approve the bids, approve the bidding now, period.
Sign the construction contract, move it forward.
Sign a construction contract with Casper Construction.
Do you want to put that resolution
So,
on there?
Do we have that
That's F3.
It's
this one.
It just reads a little different to me.
So just to be clear, from the prior discussion, if you do what I just heard, just award the project and we'll figure out the assessments later. I think we've already talked plenty on staff note. When I say staff, Phil and I and Mike and whoever are gonna massage the numbers to see if we can lower the project costs and/or, if nothing else, for sure, lower it to the bare minimum to make it bondable. Because everybody in the council, I think I've heard, wants to, lower the assessments if possible in a legal manner that's uniform. So I already heard that loud and clear. It's still gonna be higher than people want, so you still might have some appeals, but I haven't heard any worries about that, to be frank. It's more the process, not whether some people appeal and go to district court. We'll worry about that later, is what I think I'm hearing from everyone. It's more,
How are you gonna handle the easement for the stormwater pond over at the church? You gonna sick the dogs on them?
well, that's number 2
That's
on the
number
list
2.
here. We could talk about it now, but,
Well, I mean, that's part of it.
well, if you want to talk about that before you vote on number 1.
No, somebody could make a motion.
It doesn't take long. The worry would be if the church perceives that, and I felt like that's what they're perceiving, that we're not working with them, there's no guarantee they'll give us an easement, and I think you need to start the process because it takes 4 months to do it by force. I hope we don't have to, but at least start the process, and if we get an easement in the meantime, we can stop the process.
You're gonna be offended by that, but.
No doubt about it.
No doubt.
But the other, if you think of it the other way, you award a $2 million some bid and start construction, and then we don't have an easement to do the stormwater pond, and that's gonna be kind of awkward. I don't think the church would do that, but back to, just like I said before, when you're thinking about how to properly assign assessments to people, you're not supposed to look at the human people or what kind of people they are. It's the process. You shouldn't just guess how people are going to behave. The process should be, if we're at this stage and don't have easements in place, Phil's checklist would say, tell lawyer to start condemnation, because you can't award a bid like this and just hope or trust that people are going to sign off. That's not a spot you want to be in.
I think that's exactly correct. So my job is to provide you, we got bids, and to try and execute and deliver this project under the bids that we have. So if we can't cooperatively get this easement like we appear to have gotten with Simonson, then I would want the engineer to run a simultaneous, or the attorney to run a simultaneous track while we still talk to the log church. So that in the end, when the contractor comes to do this work, the first thing out of the gate is not, hey, I can't get this work done. Now we need to talk about changing contract, change orders, and additional costs. We want to try and get this taken care of so that this can be done under the contract that we've laid out.
I would just proceed real quietly, and I would have us proceed real aggressively with trying to rework that assessment.
Well, in the same logic, if you don't have Simon's signature, I know I drafted something, but if it's not signed in hand, it should start with M too.
Yep.
But you stop it as soon as you get the signature.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about people, it's about, because again, he said it, but to say it another way, contractors will find ways to up their costs, and if they have excuses like, oh, we don't have easement in place, I mean, I've gone through that rodeo many times.
Well, I think the spirit's there if we can just figure out a way to get it done, you know?
I'm sure it'll work out, but we can't risk that.
And I don't think we would be, I think we've waited as long as we can. Matter of fact, you just said 4 months, and I was thinking it was 3 months. And I look at May as being like when everything thaws and a contractor could start the work.
It's 90-day quick take, but the 90 days doesn't start until I get a hearing date with a judge. And that's gonna take me 3, 4, I mean, I don't have a hearing date like today.
Yeah.
So the 90 days doesn't start until I've got a growing county is
Well, I hope the
giving me a hearing
council is
date.
listening to us too. It's just important to get this done on all of our parts, and we gotta figure out a way to get it done.
There's no cost to them if we start the process and as soon as we get the easement, stop it. There's a cost to the city, but I don't see a way around it.
Did the contractor say when he wanted to start, if he got the job?
No.
No,